All right, got a crash. This is going to be 24 westbound approaching I-40 with the left lane blocked there at the eastern split. Got a vehicle on fire. That's blocking the left lane. Both directions, Ellington Parkway southbound right there before Douglas Avenue. Crash at Briley Parkway northbound near Volte Boulevard. Then by the airport, Briley Parkway southbound at I-40. And then in Antioch, Murfreesboro Pike near Hobson Pike. And 65 southbound right after I-440 in Berryhill. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hello, ladies and germs. It is Matt Murphy in for Brian Wilson on the drive this Monday edition, December 2. Is that right? What? December 2nd. Yeah, I got it right.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. December 2nd, 2024. It's 2024, isn't it?
Let me check.
Have that correct?
Yes,
that's
that is
good.
correct.
There's Chris Weber right behind the glass, making sure that everything that comes out of our speakers sounds as good as humanly possible. Ken Weaver is in News Closet B. He's gathering headlines as we speak, getting ready for another stellar and award-winning newscast coming up at the bottom of the hour, or when news breaks. He'll jump in, or if something happens on I-24, he'll tell you about that as well. We've lots to do today. 4 full hours of what I hope to be talk radio excellence on my episode 704 during these visits together on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. For those of you watching on Super Talk TV, you might notice my hair's still long. Locked for Trump Day 275. We're growing it all the way to the inauguration, baby. I was going to allow everyone on Super Talk Television, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, like and subscribe if you go over there. I don't know why you would, because I'm a face made for radio. But that said, if you go over there, like, subscribe us. Thank you very much. And you will not see me wearing. I was going to wear my. I was going to start the show in my knit cap. Have you seen my knit cap? My cousin-in-law made me this knit cap.
I like that.
And no, it's nice. And I was going to wear it, but it's very warm. Can't wear it in here.
It's the right colors.
It is the right. Yes, I was wearing my jacket's the wrong color today. I don't know if you noticed that. Well, yeah, but
forgive that.
It was on special. It was on sale.
No one wants that.
Yeah, orange clothing is always on sale.
Clearance.
Ken Weaver, how's it going? How was your Thanksgiving? Let's just go round the room and talk about this.
I'm full as a tick, boys.
Are you?
I mean, full as a tick.
What was the finest thing that flew in your mouth over the holiday season?
You know what? I did something different this year.
Mm-hmm.
I put a corn casserole in with a green bean casserole in a crock pot.
Ooh.
And
casserole turducken.
And the second day it was better because the edges had gotten crispy.
Yeah.
Kind of burnt crispy a little bit, you know?
Yeah, I like that.
Mm-hmm.
So tore that up. And
that's good.
Red wine.
Tore that up.
Had some red wine. I paid for that on a Friday. Friday, I woke up not feeling too well, and I thought, yeah, that's not like Coors Light.
No, that hits a little harder in the morning.
My dad made that mistake before. I'm quit drinking beer. I'm going to drink wine from now on.
Yeah.
He did not take into consideration the alcohol content difference.
I mean, I always wondered why people put their pinky out and just kind of, purse their lips.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a sipper.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you got to go slow with that kind of stuff.
I don't sip.
Gulping.
Yeah, and I'm not ever going to do that again. Ever.
I'd like to see.
At least you're old enough to learn your lesson.
Yeah, I'd like to see you on some red wine, Ken.
I was in bed by 6:45.
On Friday?
Yes.
Oh, well, you missed the shenanigans Friday night then.
Or maybe not.
I actually saw the shenanigans from my bed.
Yikes.
Listen,
if you're we don't talk about college football very much on this radio show, especially considering that we're affiliated with the wrong squads around here. I mean, we got Oklahoma and 2 Georgia fans. But my goodness gracious, if you're a fan of pigskin, if you're a fan of the oblong ball in any form or fashion, I don't know how you didn't enjoy it. I mean, I'm certain that game was a delight to watch for people unaffiliated, not caring who was the actual winner of the game.
Yeah. It was like watching, just a heavyweight slugfest. You're just,
Oh, my goodness
It
gracious.
was, man. And, I mean, as we were talking earlier, I thought it was genius the way Kirby Smart would wait to see Georgia Tech line up, in the 2-point conversion series.
Well,
and
they're
then
gonna
he'd call a timeout.
And if they're going to give you a timeout per overtime,
Every overtime, yeah.
the time to take it is when your defense looks at their offense, especially when you get. I mean, it's thrilling. It's an emotional roller coaster. It seems to be a little bit of a foolish way to end a contest, but I guess that's the best thing they can come up with because they don't want people playing all night. I guess.
Yeah, I want them to play all night, quite frankly.
I mean,
there's a better way.
Are y'all fans of the 25-yard? Both teams get possession deal, the college football overtime rules?
I think it ought to be like the NFL.
I think you play until you got a winner. That's the way I feel about it.
I mean, I know
don't take the kicking game out of it. That's an important part of the game.
Right.
So I don't like that they take that out of it.
Right. If we if you get stopped 2 or 3 times, on the 24-yard line and you don't have that good of a kicker versus another team that does have a great kicker, then it could matter.
Yeah. And not to mention just kickoffs and kick returns. They take that away from you. So that part of the game is no longer.
I thought the NFL came up with an interesting, because in the NFL, their overtime rules used to be that you coin flip and whoever gets the ball, if they score, they win.
Yeah, I don't like that either.
And it got a little annoying to people because, if you're a defensive-minded team, then whatever. And then, of course, if you just scored the 3 – so if you get the ball, 40 yards maybe, and you've got an opportunity for a 50-yard field goal to win a game and the other team never gets to touch it. So they altered it. So now – the team that wins the toss, if you score 7 points, you win the game.
Mm-hmm.
If you only score a field goal, the other team gets a possession.
Okay.
Which is a little bit better.
That's better.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. I don't know that there's a perfect way to do it. It doesn't seem to be a perfect way to do it, just to start telling the teams, okay, y'all go down there to that end of the field, and both of you run 2 plays from the 3-yard line. And if you're still tied, run all the way back to which was just the stupidest part, run all the way back to the other end of the field.
Yeah.
And we're going to do that again. And if you are still tied, run all the way back to the other end of the field, which it feels to me like, does it really matter that much?
Which end of the field? Yeah, I mean, you're running one play.
Right.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Maybe if the sun is in your eyes, if it's a game in the middle of the day, you got to deal with the sun. Or something like that.
Or if you're in the opposing team's stadium and one end of the field is where your fans are, I suppose maybe it can make an impact.
Maybe a little bit. Yeah.
A little bit of an impact. One way or the other, the game was decided in the correct fashion.
That's correct.
And that's the big thing.
Yeah.
Congratulations to the University of Tennessee. It looks like they're going to be in the college football playoff.
Mm-hmm.
First year of the 12-team playoff. Kudos to you guys taking care of business against Vanderbilt. Boy, it didn't look weird at first.
I hadn't even turned it on yet, and I thought, ooh, what happened here?
I was driving down to Evergreen, Alabama to pick up Conecuh sausage. More on that toward Christmas, fellas. Delicious Christmas sausage that can only be gotten from the factory in Evergreen, Alabama.
It's a special one, huh?
It's a because they use some special type of flavoring. But one way or the other, I'm driving down, and I couldn't find the game. I wanted to see what was up, and I finally found the game on the radio, and it was like, well, we're a minute and a half into the game, 14-0 Vanderbilt. I said, did they spot them? What did they
You could say that.
Well, I mean, in a way,
kind of,
in a way that they did. Well, I hope your team won this weekend, unless your team was the Yellow Jackets, in which case you know exactly what happened there. So, any favorites from the Thanksgiving feast?
All
of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
I had too much of everything.
That's the way to go, brother.
But I'd do it again.
Oh yeah. I mean, but that's what Thanksgiving's for, right?
That's right.
I mean, you make up for it later on. For me, it was not the red wine. For me, it was. So the father-in-law and I went to the ABC stores, what they call it in Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
And there was something called Incinerator.
Oh, I've had that.
Which is most of these cinnamon-flavored whiskeys are like 70 proof or 60 proof. This is 91 proof.
Goodness.
And you gotta watch that stuff too, Ken.
Yeah, I take it you don't treat it like Coors Light.
Well, no, I mean, that'll make more than your pinky poke out. Before you know it, you're standing in the yard with your pants around your ankles. You know what I mean?
Yelling at people.
Howling at the moon, yelling at folks. Get off my property.
What'd
There's nobody
you
out
say?
here. There's nobody out here.
You're in a public park, sir.
What are you looking at?
That's right. I'm going to need to ask you just to get into the back of the vehicle and get right on it. But no, I hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Hope everybody had a good time. Pumpkin cake, by the way. My goodness.
That
just
sounds
so
good.
Look, if you're not a fan, that means that it's more for me, for all of you out there that aren't fans. But I'm not that much of a pumpkin pie fan, but my grandma always made the pumpkin cake, and I got it again this holiday, and I absolutely loved it. It's so good.
Yeah, sounds good.
With the cream cheese icing on the top, real thick layer of cream cheese icing. Just look at it and gain 3 pounds. It's pretty good stuff. All right, we got lots to do, as you might have heard. I like cranking it up at 3. This is fun. Ready? As you might have heard, Joe Biden made an announcement last evening.
Really?
Yeah, believe it or not. President Joe Biden, a known liar, has granted a blanket pardon to his son, who is formerly on crack, that covers all federal offenses committed from January 1st of 2014 to December 1st of 2024, whether he was charged with said offenses or not. These details matter to me, at least in terms of what the intentions were behind the blanket pardon. One could easily suspect, and I would agree with you, that this mostly had to do with the charges in front of Hunter Biden. The fact that he very likely could have gone and served jail time for the gun offenses and for the tax-related offenses. But I believe that it goes deeper than that, and I think the blanket nature of the pardon and the fact that it extended all the way back to January 1 of 2014 tells you a lot about what Joe Biden was trying to do. He was trying to close the door on any and all opportunity to deal with, from a legal perspective, his crackhead son and the Biden family syndicate. I don't necessarily think this is the last one. Why would it be? There's no clapback for this. We'll have a special Friday edition coming up at 3:35, a limited edition where we'll talk to Jay about the constitutionality of presidential pardons and how they were written into the Constitution originally by our founding fathers. I think it was, if my memory serves me correctly, it was Alexander Hamilton that really pushed for presidential pardons. Is that, I might be wrong. For some reason, that popped up in my head. But there was one individual that specifically pushed for the ability for the president to have the ultimate authority to pardon individuals in a blanket way without regard for their guilt or not. I mean, the Constitution doesn't say anything about whether or not you're guilty, anything about whether or not you did it, anything about whether or not you got railroaded. Doesn't matter. A pardon is a pardon is a pardon. It goes so far as to suggest that perhaps, and I don't believe this, by the way, that a president could pardon himself or herself, as the case may be. But Joe Biden took the unprecedented step of pardoning his son, Hunter, after Hunter faced convictions in 2 federal cases earlier this year, including charges of making false statements during a firearm purchase and failing to pay over $1.4 million in taxes. Biden defended his decision in a written statement, saying that it was a response to what he described as selective and unfair prosecution by, wait for it, the Biden Justice Department. Nowhere does any of this make sense. Obviously, it doesn't make sense. Democrats do not believe that the law applies to them, okay? Especially Democrats in Washington, D.C. They believe that they are above all of this. One of the reasons the bureaucracy, specifically the FBI, an organization that needs to be dismantled and rebuilt out of the ashes of it in another name with a focused purpose. And I've been saying that for 2 years. Well, actually, maybe even longer than that. The FBI is freaking out. The deep state is freaking out because of Kash Patel's name being floated as the new FBI director for one reason and one reason alone. because they've got it good right now. They believe that they act extracurricular to the Constitution of the United States of America. And more broadly, Democrats believe this. The laws are for thee and not for me, says Democrats. And I believe Joe Biden feels that way too, and has for the last 50 years. Joe Biden and the mainstream media will never report on this accurately or fully. Their curiosity ends when the D is seen after the name of the individual politician that they may be investigating. Joe Biden said the quiet part out loud, guys. Joe Biden announced to the assembled press when he was vice president of the United States of America that he told Ukraine to fire a prosecutor that was looking into Burisma, a company that his son worked at, on the board of the company, making $50,000 a month for no purpose other than to gain influence over the Obama presidency. And it worked. Burisma was being investigated by a Ukrainian prosecutor, and Joe Biden said it out loud. I told him, yeah, I'll take my money and get back on the plane and leave. What type of attitude is that? What type of intestinal fortitude, what type of cojones does it take for you to just say it out loud? I told him to do this, otherwise I was leaving with the money. Your money, my money, taxpayer money. And he did it to benefit his son. That was the unspoken part. I think that this blanket pardon is designed to cover that too. And to cover up some of the Biden crime family activity that's been going on for quite some time. I would not be surprised if Joe Biden does not pardon his brother. And I believe that that would be the other one that I would look out for. Now, I'm not playing a game of Murphy was right. I could, but I'm not playing a game of Murphy was right today. But I said this back in June. It was the easiest prediction ever. Plenty of people predicted it. We'll go over that, kind of reset all of this for you, and get your thoughts on it. If you've not commented on it and choose to, 615-737-9986, either via phone or on the super text line, we'd love to hear from you. Your thoughts, your angle on the Joe Biden pardon. The media reaction has been glorious. We're going to cover it all for you today. Plus, we'll get to every other aspect of the news on this Monday afternoon. Glad to have you with us on The Drive with Matt Murphy on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
The Guaranteed Offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Well, snow headed this way. President-elect Trump warning Hamas to release the hostages. And more details into President Biden's decision to pardon his son coming up at 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. Ken Weaver. 3:28 right now. Happy Monday to you. Hope everybody's doing well. Kind of back in the groove this week. I'll be here today, obviously. Tomorrow, Wednesday and Thursday, in my normal spot between noon and 3. And thanks to Chad Benson for filling in for me as I slip in here for Brian Wilson. And then back on Friday from 3 until 7 o'clock. So tomorrow's show, just for those of you who are all-day listeners and you're able to tune in all day long, and we appreciate you. Tomorrow's show for me will be a little bit different. I will be out at the Men of Valor campus, the Aftercare Reentry Service campus over in Antioch. And we're going to be tomorrow is Giving Tuesday. Today is Cyber Monday. You getting all your cyber shopping done there, Weber?
Yeah, I'm buying all my cyber stuff.
Mm-hmm. Getting it. You know, I purchased myself a hat. I'm very proud. I mean, I'm kind of a hat weirdo. Yeah. But I'm very excited about this hat. It's not coming in yet, but I'm very excited about this hat. But it's a hat, and it's got a patch on the front of the hat, and the hat says, "To hell I won't."
I like that. Yeah.
I felt like
it's fitting.
I felt like it fit the personality. But anyway, yeah, so it's Cyber Monday today, and then tomorrow we call it Giving Tuesday. And so in that spirit, Men of Valor is we're doing a little bit of a kind of a mini radiothon where we'll be talking to Men of Valor, talking to some of the graduates of Men of Valor, and really focusing our attention on the incredible work that they do around the state of Tennessee and right here in Nashville. So I'm very excited about that. It will be a focus show. We're not going to forget the headlines. We're not going to forget things that are going on in the world. We'll keep you up to date with all of that. We're going to focus a little more on Men of Valor on tomorrow's show, and that's from noon until 3 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I like this. Dakota writes in, what are the qualifications for getting a pardon? I would like to get one to keep it in my pocket for when I need it later. Well, that's a good idea, Dakota. And, you know, there was actually a suggestion that Hunter Biden had a free pass for several hours yesterday. I want to talk about that because with Jay St. Clair, was that true? Because the suggestion was because he said Joe Biden's declaration said it was a blanket pardon for any offenses committed, whether charged or not, between January 1st, 2014 and December 1st, 2024. He issued the thing at like 6 o'clock in the afternoon. So the suggestion was for 6 hours, Hunter had a free. It was like Hunter Biden's own personal purge party. Hunter Biden had a pass. I don't think that's true, but we'll discuss it with Jay St. Clair coming up in just a moment. News time now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's 3:30.
.30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Channel 4's Cruz Medina says snow is falling at a pretty good clip in southern Kentucky and headed this way.
All of this is going to pivot through the mid-state through this evening. So it's moving northwest to southeast. That means it's going to fall right through the evening commute. So I don't expect any large impacts here. Nonetheless, maybe your visibility is reduced briefly. Also, because the temperatures are above freezing in an area like Nashville, we're going to see a lot of melting on impact at first until those temperatures start dropping from the snow coming down. Now, with that melting, anything that does melt, it's going to create wet conditions on the roads. And tonight, we're going to have to watch for areas of black ice that could develop.
Yeah, we'll be here watching it for you. Full forecast and traffic coming up in 5 minutes. President-elect Trump seems to have a message for Hamas. He posted to Truth Social today, there will be, quote, all hell to pay in the Middle East if the perpetrators don't release the hostages by the time he takes office on January 20th. Trump says those responsible will be hit harder than anybody has been in the long and storied history of the United States of America. More details into President Biden's decision to pardon his son Hunter Biden ahead of his sentencing this month on federal gun-related charges. White House correspondent Karen Travers.
We know that the president had talked to his family about this potential pardon over the weekend. Senior staff was informed on Saturday night that there was a possibility that he would do this, and he made up his mind yesterday. And he said in his statement last night that once he made the decision to issue the pardon, there was no sense in delaying it further.
Here in Nashville, Metro Police Violent Crimes Division detectives want you to see images they released this morning of a taco truck robbery in Antioch in hopes you can identify the suspects. You can clearly see a suspect wearing a hoodie and sunglasses pointing a gun at employees. Then he takes the entire cash register. Happened on November 18th. We've reposted the images and the number to Crime Stoppers to call if you can help. And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Right now, you got two crashes on Briley Parkway near the airport. One is northbound near Voltee Boulevard. The other one is right there at I-40. Elsewhere in East Nashville, Ellington Parkway southbound before Douglas Avenue. The left lane is blocked by a vehicle fire. Then a crash in South Nashville, 24 eastbound at Murfreesboro Pike. Crash at Murfreesboro Pike near Hobson Pike in Antioch. Trousdale Drive at Harding Place. And then 65 southbound right after 440. Police on the scene of a crash there. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
Monday edition of The Drive on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good afternoon. Hope everyone's doing well. Hope you had a great weekend. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Feels odd. We were off Thursday, obviously, for Thanksgiving, off Friday as well, Saturday and Sunday as usual, and back on this Monday edition. And suddenly this always happens to me during Thanksgiving, is that there's Thanksgiving and then suddenly it's December, and I'm like, where the hell did December come from? Right? I mean, I just, like, for some reason, I'm perpetually of the belief that Thanksgiving's on like November 13th. And I don't recognize that it's a little bit closer to that. So Ken Weaver gave this real quick before I get to Jay St. Clair. Very, very fast story. Ken Weaver's talking about the story of the robbery that happened where they gave the register to the robber took the entire register.
Yeah, from the taco truck.
All right, so it was 1994, I think, was the time. 94, maybe early 95. And young Matt Murphy is cooking third shift at Waffle House in Carrollton, Georgia, where I went to school at West Georgia. And you're trained at Waffle House, right? That don't be a hero. And that's the right thing to do if you're a business. Don't be a hero. If somebody comes in, you don't have to see a gun. You don't have to see a knife. If they tell you they have a weapon, the rules were if they tell you they have a weapon and they demand money, give them money. And we'll figure it out later. So they also instructed us during our training that do not spend the time to pull the money out of the drawer of the cash register. Because, if you're pulling them out of the little individual drawers, that takes time. And the guy across from you is probably antsy. And if he's got a gun, then, the more time that he's in the store, the more dangerous it is. So they taught us to give the drawer. So that if somebody's robbing you, you give them the entire drawer. Just take the drawer out of the cash register, give it to them, and then they can go with it. All right. So one night on this fateful night at Waffle House in Carrollton, Georgia, we got robbed, and I was in the back. It was like it was a Wednesday or Thursday. We were not very busy. It was like 3:00 in the morning, and Wanda, God bless Wanda, was out on the floor. There was another waitress out on the floor as well, and I was chopping onions or something, and I hear something loud, and I come from the back room to witness a robbery in progress, and there's a guy there in front of Wanda, and he's telling Wanda to give him the money, and so Wanda reached under where the cash register stand was and unplugged the cash register and handed him the entire cash register.
There you go.
There you go, buddy. And the guy, as God is my witness, the guy looked very confused and then left with the cash register. Ran off with it. And so after, the adrenaline dies down and the shock of what just happened dies down, I'm like, Wanda, why did you give him and she said, that's what our training told us to do. It told us to give him the cash register. And I was like, no, it said give him the drawer inside of the cash register. He's like,
that comes out. Oh, I didn't know.
I didn't do that. The cash register was worth more than all of the money inside of there. All right, to talk about this pardon, we asked, and he has accepted our invitation to come in on a very special edition of Friday on The Drive on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I screwed it up.
Do that? All right.
No. I screwed it up. Don't do it. I botched it anyway. Jay St. Clair joins us. Hello, Jay. You don't get the music on a Monday.
Yep. Hey, buddy.
How's it going, Jay?
It's cold.
Yeah, it is cold. It's brutal. Well, listen, I know it's a little bit of a suspended conversation, but I was curious your thoughts on this, and I think you can fill in a lot of the gaps in knowledge that people have about presidential pardons, because if I'm not mistaken, Jay, and I'll just kind of start here, I mean, the Constitution is really quite open about who the president can pardon, and it really is anybody the president wants to pardon as long as it's a federal crime. Do I have that right?
Yeah, well, he can pardon anybody he wants to, but he can only pardon them from federal crimes.
Okay.
And yeah, that's right. It's rooted in history. When we first declared our independence and we whooped the British, we didn't have a president. It was just Articles of Confederation because we were running from a king. So we weren't going to appoint a king, man. And the King of England for centuries had what was known, I know you said this a lot, the royal prerogative of mercy.
Oh, I mean, if I don't say it on a daily basis, it's every other day.
The royal prerogative of mercy. And it's a centuries old thing that the king had the power. You know, the king can do no wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And so the king had the power to pardon. So we started our country. Well, when I don't have a king, didn't even have a president. And then we decided that didn't work out very well. So we decided, well, we need an executive. We need a chief magistrate. You see that in some of the literature. But it's not going to be a king. We're going to separate power, right? The separation of powers was one of the smartest things included in the Constitution. But they did. It's a little odd to me. I've been doing some historical research. It's a little odd to me that they gave this brand new president the power of pardon, which is a vestige, I think, of the royal prerogative of mercy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a power that the King of England had. And they said, well, somebody ought to be able to give pardons. And, you know, you and I were talking about Federalist 74 just the other day on a different subject, but that's Alexander Hamilton wrote that one. And in that, he talks about the power of the pardon. And that they talked about, you know, maybe it ought to be a committee or maybe even a legislative branch. And they ended up deciding, no, it really just should be one person. And I won't get into all the reasoning, but they thought about it. And so, yeah, they gave the president the modern day, power of the pardon. And he can pardon anybody he wants to. And there's no review of it, no appeal. And I think somebody on X was saying, well, can Trump unpardon him? The answer is no.
Mm-hmm.
Once you're pardoned, you're pardoned. So it's a pretty simple legal issue. Like so much of all this is going on, it's 99.9% political and 0.1% legal.
Well, I mean, some of the reaction to it, as almost everything is nowadays, it's always an 11, Jay. It's never a 10 or a 9 or an 8. It's always an 11. And suddenly we've got a constitutional crisis on our hands. The same Constitution that's been around for a long time, right?
No, it's no constitutional crisis. It's maybe a political crisis. Now, I'll tell you where it won't be a constitutional crisis, but Richard and I have been chatting. I don't know if you saw it, but if you think it's wild now, what about next week when he pardons 200 FBI agents and 25 Department of Justice attorneys?
I mean, I might be asking you a question that's more in my lane. And we talk about your legal lane and my political lane, but I mean, I think more are coming. I don't know how many are coming. I think more are coming.
No, I agree with that, and they always do. And it's buddies, and the Tennessee has a rich history of that. We talked a while back about former Governor Ray Blanton, who was selling pardons. Right at the end of the term, and they actually had to swear in Lamar Alexander early because Blanton was opening up prison doors.
I think that there was Harding. I think Warren G. Harding, President Harding, was accused of selling pardons. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so it's not a constitutional crisis at all. The Constitution is very clear. People can maybe say, well, that was a bad idea to do that, but they did it, and it's been around for over 200 years and hadn't ruined the republic yet. It's interesting to read Federalist 74 because Hamilton was saying, we talked about maybe a committee, but then there'll be horse trading and I think it's better to just put this in the hands of one person because we think that whoever we elect president is going to be a good enough person to not misuse it.
And the remedy, and some people are asking, well, what's the remedy? Like, for example, the idea of selling pardons or the idea of pardoning people that you shouldn't pardon. Well, I mean, the remedy is impeachment, right?
That's right. Or in the case of Biden, let's say that he did sell a pardon. Like Blanton,
Mm-hmm.
right at the end of his as he's going down. Well, once he's no longer a president, he's not immune, and he's committed the crime of bribery.
Right.
Right. So I mean, if it's a bribe, then he can be prosecuted once he leaves the office. That's the remedy. But yeah, ultimately, the real remedy for misuse of it is the ballot box.
So several questions about this, Jay, from the listening audience on the super text line, and we have the smartest audience on God's green earth, and I love them to death. And many of them are asking about the concept of a blanket pardon or the blanket nature of the pardon. TB writes in and says, but it's a blanket pardon for everything for the last 10 years. And so a lot of people are wondering what's up with that.
Well, the president has the power to do that. He could, if he wanted to. I will pardon you for these two convictions. He could have limited it to that. But the Constitution does not place that limitation on him. He has the complete power of pardon. It's like when Ford pardoned Nixon, right after Nixon resigned.
Right.
Gerald Ford pardoned him. Well, he hadn't even been charged with the crime. And he just gave him a blanket pardon.
Mm-hmm.
And so the president has that power under the Constitution. There's no doubt about that. And so why would he do that? Maybe he thinks of other crimes.
I think I know why he did.
Charged with you, and that the current Attorney General wouldn't charge him with one. But there's about to be a new sheriff in town. But now here's the flip side to it, Matt, and this is where it gets really kind of fun. Fifth Amendment right to not testify goes away if you've been pardoned. It's gone. He can't plead the Fifth anymore on any crime being investigated during that 10-year period.
So
he must answer every question asked of him
because he cannot incriminate himself criminally.
Right, because he's been pardoned.
So,
and that is clearly the law, because I tell you what happened. This was back early in the century. Some reporters broke a story, and it was embarrassing to the government, and so they charged reporters with crimes, and they wouldn't talk. They just pleaded the Fifth. Well, the president pardoned them solely to make them talk.
Right, because you can't have any Fifth Amendment protection when there's no threat against you from a criminal.
That's right. You've been pardoned, so there's no reason for. They declined the pardon. They said we don't accept the pardon.
Wait a minute. The person pardoned declined the pardon.
Absolutely.
I'm good.
I thought this was odd. If you see when the letter Biden sent out to the court, said, I have received a pardon and I have accepted it. And I thought, well, that's odd. So I had to figure out what that was all about. And you do not have to accept a pardon, man. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that makes sense. If it's more important for you to keep quiet in your mind than it is to absolve yourself.
You don't want to plead the Fifth.
It's kind of
maybe
your option.
You feel like you didn't commit. And no, I'm not going to be pardoned for it because I didn't do the crime. Well, the Supreme Court said, well, receiving a pardon does not mean you're admitting your guilt.
Well, let me tell you the timing on this, the Jan 1, 2014 to December 1, 2024. It reminded me of one of our favorite movies, Cool Hand Luke, when Dragline asked him what'd you have to say 50 for? Well, that seemed like a nice round number. I mean, I don't think that 10 years is by mistake, Jay. I could be wrong.
No, it's not. And I don't know. I hadn't looked. Maybe it has something to do with statute of limitations. Maybe it has to do with the events that happened. I don't know.
Burisma, Ukraine.
That's not random. It absolutely is not random.
So final question, because we're just desperately short on time. But there was a question last night posed because the pardon extended to December 1st, 2024. And so it's just one of these unique things. I'm assuming that Hunter Biden could not have gone out and committed murder last night at 11:30 and gotten away with it.
No, well, I mean, it goes up until midnight of the day. But my guess is that didn't happen. And there's also been some question about why is he doing it so early? Why not wait till later? Maybe there's something. I can tell you why that is. His sentencing was set for December 12th.
Mm-hmm. 10 days.
That's why it's happening now, man.
Well, I believe there's more to come, Jay, and we'll certainly be talking about it with you as it does come. I appreciate your availability on this Friday on Monday, man.
Hey, I'm not even going to charge you overtime, man. Just
you're a good man. So, naught times naught, in other words. Is that what I'm adding up on the invoice?
That's it.
Thank you, brother. I'll see you.
See you, man.
Take care. There's Jay St. Clair joining us with a discussion about pardons. We'll get your thoughts in on this. 615-737-9986, as that's the big news item of the day as we continue on. Oh, it's snowing outside on the drive on Super Talk 99.7 WGN. Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in, and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
Good afternoon. It's Brian Wilson with the Market Report. Dow Jones Industrials down 128 today. The S&P up 14. NASDAQ in record territory up 185. Mixed boards. What's driving the market? Let's check in with John Maxon over at Beacon Capital Management. Good afternoon, John.
Well, Brian, actually the S&P and the NASDAQ had really good days today. They actually ended at record highs, not so much for the Dow, so definitely some mixed boards, but we're coming off November, where November was the best monthly gains we've had in about a year. So December definitely started with a bang. Tech really led today, but a couple things came out that were more positive than what the market was expecting. The first one was ISM manufacturing. So this is a gauge of manufacturing. It was above expectations, along with construction spending. Been some concern about that. Also came in above expectations. So that was really good for the market. But the market's really going to start to turn its eye towards the jobs information. It's going to come out Wednesday, and then the big report on Friday. This is going to impact the Fed decision going forward. So a lot of important information as we continue the week.
And to find out what John Maxon and the other folks at Beacon Capital Management can do to help you get ready for retirement, just go to their website, askbeaconnow.com.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic coming up in 5 minutes. Snow headed this way. Not expected to be a major impact to the evening commute. Channel 4's Brandon Tierney says Nashville Department of Transportation Assistant Director of Operations Philip Jones says they're going to monitor road conditions anyway.
They will have people monitoring road conditions overnight to make sure things don't freeze up before the morning rush with the extreme cold. He's particularly concerned about bridges and overpasses tonight. I got an update from TDOT within just the past hour saying they're going to start going out to brine problem areas, mainly I-40 over in East Nashville. And beyond that, they just have crews on standby to head out if conditions get very bad tonight.
President-elect Trump has a message for Hamas. It's on his social media platform, Truth Social, and it says, "Release the hostages now," in all caps. Trump writes if it doesn't happen by the time he takes office on January 20th, there will be, quote, all hell to pay for the perpetrators in the Middle East. More details into President Biden's decision to pardon his son, Hunter Biden, ahead of his sentencing this month on federal gun-related charges. Here's White House correspondent Karen Travers.
White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre on Air Force One today was really pummeled with questions from reporters about what changed. The legal circumstances have not changed for Hunter Biden, but the timing, of course, has changed. It is now after the election, and Donald Trump will be taking office in January. And Karine did say that for the president, he has heard his political opponents go after his son, and he believed that they would not let up on his son. And that was a big factor as he considered this.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, 2 crashes on Briley Parkway, both of them near the airport. The first one northbound near Vultee Boulevard. The other one southbound right there at I-40. Then we've got Trailsdale Drive at Harding Place in Nashville. Police on scene of a crash there. I-65 southbound near the Orlinda-Portland, exit 117. That is a stalled tractor-trailer. Highway Patrol on the scene. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hour number 2 of The Drive. Matt Murphy in for Brian Wilson today until 7 o'clock tonight. Glad you're with us. Thank you for spending some time. If you spend 5 or 10 minutes with us, maybe you have a short commute on the way home or perhaps the entire 4 hours. I'm thankful. I'm appreciative. Happy Monday to you. 615-737-9986. If you'd like to be involved in the show, turn a monologue into a dialogue or a dialogue into a trialogue, depending on how many folks are on the line there. You may do so by dialing up those numbers, 615-737-9986. You can also hit us up on the membersnutrition.com super text line at 615-737-9986. So we'll get into Kash Patel coming up in a moment. He was selected over the Thanksgiving holiday as the next director of the FBI per the Trump administration or per the Trump transition team. Obviously, these FBI appointments don't come up every time there is a presidential election, but the FBI director serves at the pleasure of the President of the United States of America, much to the chagrin of all these liberal talking heads that I watched over the weekend, their heads exploding. They were just shocked and dismayed that Donald Trump would pick a loyalist. Loyalist is the new code word. Have y'all noticed that? ABC, CBS, NBC, MSNBC, and, of course, hashtag never CNN. What a garbage network full of garbage people spewing garbage. Don't watch. I'll watch so you don't have to. It's an occupational hazard for me. But there they are talking about, oh, this is creating it's a constitutional crisis. We'll get into why they're saying that. It's nonsense. But to understand the background of why they would say that is to understand the shallow nature of intellectual thought when it comes to Democrats, or in this case, non-intellectual thought when it comes to Democrats. By the way, it may or may not be snowing in Nashville, Tennessee, although I think there's a little bit of a donut hole going on right now. It's snowing just to the north of us. I would expect in your neck of the woods, Chris Webber, up there, White House way, it's coming down as we speak.
I have gotten reports that there are some flakes falling up there. Yeah.
Snowflakes. So I guess if it's the first snow of the season, I'm obligated. It's snowing! It's snowing! Ah!
Let's panic, please.
Yes, please. Milk and bread, everybody.
Clean it out.
Don't forget the toilet paper.
Oh, TP, too. Ken Weaver says TP over there. TP, milk, bread. That's right.
Yes.
All the things you need for a snowstorm or a dusting, as the case may be. Dan Thomas is going to put the kibosh on all of this freak out when he stops by at about 4:35 this afternoon from WSMV 4. And he'll give us the lowdown on what we can expect tonight. And more importantly, for our purposes, in all seriousness, what we can expect in the morning. Because that's the concern, is that you get a lot of moisture on the roads. That's going to freeze over. It's not going to get above freezing until the commute. And then you know what kind of melee that can cause. So we'll talk with Dan about that at about 4:35 this afternoon. All right, so this is my favorite of all of the reactions. And I've got a lot of audio reactions to the pardon that Joe Biden gave to his son, Hunter. By far, my favorite reaction is the community note that Joe Biden got. He posted on May 31st, 2024, this is Joe Biden, the president of the United States of America, who is still, by the way, not that the mainstream media remembers this, but Joe Biden is still the president of the United States of America. I don't know if you noticed. He posted on May 31st, 2024, no one is above the law. That's what he said. And repeatedly, after his son was found guilty of gun crimes, that's another aspect to this that I want to get into. I don't suggest to you that I agree with some of the questions that are on the federal form. As a matter of fact, if we were talking about the nature of those questions, I would suggest to you that some of those questions I don't care for very much. Regarding what you have to demonstrate in order to be able to purchase a gun, because I think I can make the case that these are in violation of the Second Amendment. Like saying, have you ever been on drugs? Have you ever been a drug addict? Well, why does that preclude you? And this is the thing that Hunter Biden lied about on one of his forms. And he was found guilty. Now, there's no question that Hunter Biden was guilty. He lied on a federal form, and essentially that is equatable to lying to a federal agent with regard to his drug addiction in his past. But I don't agree that this should be a question on the federal form, but that kind of another constitutional question for another day. Point is that by granting Hunter Biden not just a pardon for the specific crimes where he's been found guilty, whether it's tax evasion or lying to the federal government on a federal gun form, Joe Biden issued him a blanket pardon. I want to read it to you for those of you who are curious. It's a pretty good statement by Joe. There's a lot of falsehoods and misstatements, and we'll go through some of those as we go down it. But for immediate release from the White House yesterday, of course, President Joe Biden issued this statement to the American people right before he got on a plane to go to Angola, I think is where he's going, some sort of foreign trip, his final foreign trip of his presidency. Anyway, this is what the statement regarding the pardon. This is not the actual pardon. That's a different thing. But this is the statement regarding the pardon. Today, I signed a pardon for my son, Hunter. From the day I took office, I said I would not interfere with the Justice Department's decision-making, and I kept my word. Okay. I'm going to have to pause. So you didn't because you said you wouldn't interfere, and by literally issuing the pardon is the definition of the maximum amount of interference that you could possibly provide. So I said I would not interfere with the Justice Department's decision-making, and I kept my word. Your word as a Biden? Your word as a Biden is gross. Your word as a Biden means nothing. I love how you used to say, my word is a Biden. Your word as a Biden means nothing. You're a liar. Anyway. I kept my word even as I've watched my son being selectively and unfairly prosecuted. Without aggravating factors like use in a crime, multiple purchases, or buying a weapon as a straw purchaser, people are almost never brought to trial on felony charges solely for how they filled out a gun form. Well, those are felonies, sir. So if you're going to bring someone up on charges, they would be felony charges. Those who were late paying their taxes because of serious addictions but paid them back subsequently with interest and penalties are typically given a non-criminal resolution. Oh, so being a drug addict absolves you of all of these illegal activities, I suppose, at least according to Joe. Hunter should have come out last night and declared that that was his cocaine in the White House. Well, that would have been epic. Hey, before the clock strikes midnight, cocaine was mine, everybody. It is clear, Joe goes on, that Hunter was treated differently. The charges in his cases came about only after several of my political opponents in Congress instigated them to attack me and oppose my election. Then, a carefully negotiated plea deal, agreed to by the Department of Justice, unraveled in a courtroom. More on that in a moment, because the way he's describing this is just grossly, it's wrong. With a number of my political opponents in Congress taking credit for bringing political pressure on the process. Had the plea deal held, it would have been a fair, reasonable resolution of Hunter's cases. No reasonable person who looks at the facts of Hunter's cases can reach any other conclusion than Hunter was singled out only because he is my son. And that is wrong. There has been an effort to break Hunter, who has been 5.5 years sober. Come on, man. Even in the face of unrelenting attacks and selective prosecution. So there's Joe Biden saying, well, and if he did slip up and start doing more crack cocaine and taking photographs of himself naked while with whores in hotel rooms, or with, I shouldn't say whores, my bad, prostitutes in hotel rooms and the like, holding a gun that he had illegally purchased while smoking the crack cocaine. If he had fallen off the wagon and started doing that kind of stuff again, the kind of stuff that we found on his laptop computer in 2019, stuff that he was doing like in 2018 and into 2019, if he was engaged in those types of activities again, it really wouldn't be Hunter's fault. Because after all, there's a selective prosecution and persecution. There are, as Joe says, unrelenting attacks. He goes on, in trying to break Hunter, they've tried to break me. And there's no reason to believe it will stop here. Enough is enough. For my entire career, I have followed a simple principle. Just tell the American people the truth. I got through it. They'll be fair-minded. Here's the truth. I believe in the justice system. But as I have wrestled with this, I also believe raw politics has infected the process, and it led to a miscarriage of justice. And once I made the decision this weekend, there was no sense in delaying it further. Well, okay, there's so many things. Let me finish. I hope Americans will understand why a father and a president would come to this decision. I can understand why a father would come to this decision, because you want to get your son off. That's obviously why you made the decision. You just happen to be president of the United States of America because you guys cheated in 2020 to make sure that happened, and you're not going to let that presidency go to waste. So this was the easiest prediction I've ever made in my 25 years on radio. When Hunter Biden was ultimately sentenced and this plea deal that they attempted to arrange fell apart, it was pretty obvious at the time that there was zero chance that Joe Biden was going to leave the White House without pardoning Hunter Biden. One of the reasons that I never bought into the idea, because there was a conspiracy theory running around that the possibility existed that that Joe would leave the White House and make Kamala the 47th president of the United States. I never believed that was a possibility, for the simple reason that he's got family to take care of. He has family deals to shore up. So it was not a difficult thing to predict that Joe would pardon Hunter before Joe left office. Now, he says, well, I made the decision this weekend, and, I just went ahead and decided to do it. Now, he did it now, as Jay St. Clair mentioned in the first hour, because Hunter is about to be sentenced. And he doesn't want to go through any of that. That's happening in 10 days, or was going to happen in 10 days. Joe Biden is gaslighting in his statement in a lot of different ways. But the most egregious example is what he called or characterized as a carefully negotiated plea deal. Joe Biden, Merrick Garland put their thumb on the Department of Justice, and they weaponized the Department of Justice in favor of his son, Hunter Biden. The Department of Justice, for those of you that have forgotten, went so far as to want to grant Hunter blanket immunity on anything and everything that he had done previous to his sentencing recommendation. Even those things exterior to the case in front of the judge. The judge was dealing with these gun charges, and they wanted to offer him blanket immunity on anything and everything for that slice, that period in time that Joe has now pardoned him for. And this blew up in court because the judge couldn't believe it. The The judge in the case, go back and read the transcripts. The judge in the case could not believe that they were asking him to grant immunity on things that had nothing to do with the case in front of him. The judge wanted to come to a resolution, I believe, and was unable to. He went on and said, I can't do any of this. I mean, you talk about nobody being above the law. This is the very definition of someone being above the law. Which leads me back to the community note on Twitter. So Joe, while all of the rest of this was going on and while they were trying to grant Hunter blanket immunity, which didn't happen because a judge in good standing with the Department of Justice and our Justice Department more broadly, the branch of government, saw fit to say, no, we're not doing that. Joe comes out and says, no one is above the law. Well, not so fast, my friend. 23 after the hour. We'll tell you what the community note says in just a moment. Plus, get your telephone calls, your thoughts on the pardon of Hunter and what it means for the future of the January 6th prisoners. We'll get into that next on Super Talk. Oh, what's up, gang? So it's freezing outside, right? I mean, we finally got into that cold that we knew was coming this fall and into the winter. And that means that all of the bugs, and particularly the rodents that are out of doors normally, are coming inside. They're coming into your basement. They're coming into your crawl spaces. They're coming into your walls, and they are nestling up for the wintertime in your home. The concept of these critters being inside of your home has to be unappealing to you, which is why I introduced you to U.S. Pest. U.S. Pest, J.K., Erica, and the rest of the team are fine folks, and they're going to eliminate your rodent problem. The biggest reason that people call U.S. Pest is because, they don't like the very existence of bugs, roaches, rodents, spiders, and the rest inside of their home. They want to prevent insect and rodent-borne diseases, and they do so at U.S. Pest with their full-service pest control, their termite protection, their crawl space service, all available for you. JK reminds you not to be duped into eliminating your pest control service over the winter months. It's very vital that you keep that pest service throughout the course of the winter months. Go to uspest.com. That's uspest.com, or call today, 590-1260 for U.S. Pest.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in, and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
Snowy commute. President-elect Trump warns Hamas. And more details into President Biden's decision to pardon his son. Coming up at 4:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Indeed, we're talking about it. Ken Weaver's got the news coming up in a couple of minutes. I'd love to hear from you. 615-737-9986. Matt Murphy. Brian Wilson back tomorrow, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'm back to my normal slide from noon until 3 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Here's a little something that I call shot chaser, right? Shot chaser from Politico. Politico from 3 months ago. President Biden says he will not pardon Hunter Biden. Shot number 2 from yesterday. Biden issues pardon for son Hunter. Chaser from today. Republicans pounce on Biden pardoning his son Hunter. Pounce? The hell are you talking about, pounce? Normal people are reflecting on the fact that 3-4 months ago, Joe Biden repeatedly, I have 9 minutes. I will not bore you with the full 9 minutes. I have 9 minutes of audio of Biden, Karine Jean-Pierre, and the rest of the Biden sycophantic administration and all of the mainstream media declaring that anyone suggesting that Hunter Biden was going to be pardoned by Joe was foolish beyond repair. And we're being ridiculous. Yet, here we are. It's exactly what happened. In the meantime, on this community note, so Joe Biden says on May 31st, 2024, at 6:10 in the p.m., to be specific, no one is above the law. That post has now been community noted. And Elon Musk has just described it as a community note slay. The community note is as follows. By pardoning his son Hunter, not merely for a single crime, but for all actual or potential crimes he may or may not have created over an 11-year period, Joe Biden has in fact made it clear that some people are, in fact, above the law. That's the community note, which is true. Tell me how that's not true. He didn't just say, well, this specific prosecution is wrong. He said anything the dude did over the last 10 years, we're all good. All of the drugs, all of the hookers, all of the blow, all of the guns, all of it. It's like it never even happened. You know what's going to happen, though? The news with Ken Weaver on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Right now, the snow isn't expected to be a major impact to this evening's commute. But NDOT, that's Nashville Department of Transportation, Assistant Director of Operations Philip Jones, tells Channel 4 they've already treated some roads just in case.
We've been monitoring the weather closely, and we have all of our trucks. We've got 40 trucks, so we've got all of our trucks fueled up, calibrated, ready to go. We spent probably the last 6 weeks off and on training where you have drivers that have run the routes, so they're familiar with the route.
President-elect Trump warning Hamas to release all of the hostages they took on October 7th, 2023 by the time he takes office on January 20th, or there will be, quote, all hell to pay for the perpetrators. And a growing number of Democrats coming out against President Biden's pardon of his son, Hunter Biden. Here's White House correspondent Karen Travers.
It's been almost every hour another Democratic lawmaker has come out to criticize the president's decision to issue this pardon. We just got word that Gary Peters of Michigan, a top Democrat, said in a statement on social media that the president's decision to pardon his son was wrong. A president's family and allies shouldn't get special treatment.
Money News, Dave Packer.
A mixed day for stocks with tech companies pulling the NASDAQ up to record territory. The NASDAQ added almost a full percent, closing up 186 points. The S&P ended up 15, and the Dow closed down 129 points. Super Microcomputer soared 31% to lead the market. Intel stock fell after the chip company said CEO Pat Gelsinger has retired and stepped down from the board. On the losing side, Jeep maker Stellantis dropped more than 6% after CEO Carlos Tavares suddenly resigned. Stellantis says different views have emerged between the company's board of directors and Tavares. A majority of Supreme Court justices didn't seem convinced that federal regulators misled companies as they refused to allow them to sell sweet-flavored vaping products following a surge in teen e-cigarette use. And it was a record-setting trip home from Thanksgiving. The Transportation Security Administration says it screened nearly 3.1 million people Sunday, breaking the previous record by about 74,000.
That's the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, still dealing with a crash, Briley Parkway northbound at I-40. Then we have 65 southbound near the Orlinda-Portland exit there in Robertson County. 24 westbound at Bell Road in Nashville. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, here we are back at it, 436, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Matt Murphy. Brian Wilson back in tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Dan Thomas joins us on the Matt Murphy hotline right now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, and this man's in a time crunch. He's got to get back on television here in just a moment. But, Dan, I needed to talk with you about what's going on tonight. You know that we say the S word and people freak out, so we got to figure it out. So what can we expect tonight into tomorrow?
You got it, Matt. Yeah, what we're seeing tonight is just a burst of snow, flurries and snow showers lasting 3-4 hours max. I think the snow and flurries develop in Nashville by 5:30, maybe even some snow flurries before that. Temperatures right now in the upper 30s. Once we get that snow to start to fall, we'll fall back to the mid-30s and low 30s. So very late this evening, we're back around freezing or just below. There could be a couple of slick spots that develop overnight. Best chance on the bridge and overpass type of area. The reason for that, by morning, will be about 23, and those bridges and overpasses cool from above and below. So just the regular ground cools from above, but the bridge and overpass type of setup will cool from above and below. So those get very cold very quickly. So just watch out tonight.
Yeah, so really the danger from this might be on the bridges, the overpasses, like you say, the slick spots that are going to be icy in the morning.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's where they're really concentrated. Now, where we don't see things dry out, Temperatures in the morning, lower 20s. So even some of the walkways, the front porches could be a little slick. So just watch what you're doing and allow some extra time to navigate all that first thing tomorrow morning.
Dan, thank you so much for everything you do over at WSMV4. We appreciate you sliding us in here before you have to go do that television hit. I thank you, man.
You got it, Matt. Thank you.
Take care. There's Dan Thomas. Had to be on TV by 4:40 this afternoon. I got him out at 4:38. I feel pretty good about that.
You can go take a quick nap or something.
I mean, yeah, he can go get some coffee or whatever. I thought briefly about asking him some complex meteorological question to see if I could stretch him to as close to 4. I don't know Dan like that, though. I mean, I've talked to him on the radio. I've met him a couple of times. I saw him at a golf tournament one time, so I didn't want to do that to him. But I felt like if I maybe pinch him as close as possible to the 440, because I'm watching WSMV4 right now, so I wanted to see if it comes on television like all out of breath.
Yeah, I could see him just throwing the phone down and walking away. He's like, the heck with this radio guy. TV pays the bills, man.
Just halfway through my question, you just hear a dial tone on the well, I guess I got my answer. So there that. But look, I get it. I mean, maybe because I'm relatively new to the area, I still have not become accustomed to having snow every year. I mean, I lived in Alabama for 20 years.
Yeah.
And in Alabama, you didn't get snow every year. You got snow every 3 or 4 years of any substantial amount. In Nashville or in Middle Tennessee, is it not fair that there's a snow every year?
I would say at some point or another during the season, yeah, we do get at least one measurable snowfall.
So this is probably not going to be it.
I don't think this is it.
But, some white stuff coming down. The kids will get excited about
nice
it.
to look at.
Oh, yeah, sure. It's nice to see. I mean, it's always pretty.
It's vulgar. It's vulgar, and it should never happen.
Weaver. What did a snowman ever do to you?
I cannot stand cold weather.
You don't like the wintertime?
Only thing I like about it is I can wear clothes big enough to hide my fat sides.
Well,
other than that,
there's that.
Give me 80% humidity and 90-degree temperatures.
Oh, come on. Weaver.
You're a sick man.
All right, so Ken, my argument is this, that the cold by its very nature preserves things.
I don't care.
Heat.
I don't give a rat.
I'm not going to listen to reason.
Heat spoils things.
Not if you eat it fast enough.
Have you ever been around a group of people that are too cold? What do they say?
Well, let's see. I've been around 1.6 million of them in Idaho for about 10 years.
Oh, wait. I forgot you were in Boise. Wait a minute, Ken.
Yes, sir.
That explains everything. You're right. I'm wrong. I'm officially pardoning Ken on his position on the snow because anybody that's lived, I've got a buddy out there now. I think you know him, Nate Shellman.
Yes.
You know Nate, don't you?
I know Brother Nate well.
Oh, absolutely. Out of Boise, Idaho. I was like, how can you handle it? He said, well, you just much like anything, you just get used to it.
But Ken, shouldn't this, being in Middle Tennessee where we only do get, the one good snow event and measurably cold, just real bone-chilling weather, it doesn't last nearly as long as it did in Idaho. No. So you should appreciate.
Oh, yeah, appreciate it.
That little bit of taste of winter that we get.
What Weber said. Yeah.
No?
You should appreciate it, Ken.
That's not making it. But yeah, it's not as frequent and as long-lasting as it was in Idaho. I remember driving to work one morning. It was June 11th, and it was snowing.
Oh, well,
and I thought, why in the world am I up here?
That's when you got to get home and get out the old resume and brush up your cover letter. And
I got to get the hell out of Idaho.
Realize that.
Dan, I'm Ken Weaver. I live here in Boise, Idaho, and I'm coming down there to Nashville.
Hey,
whether you like it or not.
Did they tell you about the weather when you applied for the old Boise, Idaho gig, Ken Weaver? When you were interviewing for the Boise, Idaho gig, did they say, oh, by the way, it snows for about 9 months out of the year here?
No, they said the mountains protect you from it.
I bet you went and interviewed in the what looks like the late spring or something when it was gorgeous out.
Oh, sure.
You're like, oh, this place is going to be wonderful.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's just, man, I'm telling you, boys.
No, those parts of the world that go, hey, you know, in the middle of August, it's 74 degrees.
Yeah.
In the middle of August, Ken.
It's a paradise.
And Ken goes, oh, wow, 74 degrees.
Yeah, I like that.
Also, in January, it's negative 22.
And by the way, it'll still be snowing in June.
June 11th.
They don't put that on the old brochure, do they?
No, they do not.
I like, I'm one of these odd, as persnickety and opinionated as I am about so many things, when it comes to food and seasons, I don't care.
Really?
I like them all.
Yeah.
I like the differences of the seasons.
I do like that. Yeah.
I like that too. And I would love snow. I would absolutely love it if I didn't have jack squat to do. If I could just sit in my living room and drink coffee with, donuts or whatever and just look out
at it, yeah.
Well, and I get that because I've been asked, because I become a 12-year-old when it comes to snow. And it took me a long time to accept and admit that, but I really do. I can't help it. I grew up in the South. I didn't see it very much. It is unique to me. I did live in Connecticut one winter, and I saw plenty of snow. It was just brutal. But I do become a kid. And, it's like, well, why do you like it? Snow means you have to go to work.
Yeah.
Because we have to work.
Yeah, that's true.
And I'm like, I still love it. I don't care.
Yeah.
I dig it. So.
My adventurous side always comes out. I got to go see what's going on.
Oh yeah,
I got to get out and ride around.
Oh, man. that's when the 4-wheel drive comes in handy.
That's right.
I got some ropes in the back. I got some chains in the back. I got a come along in the back. I'll pull somebody out of it.
I didn't say I wanted to help anybody. A honk and wave. Best of luck to you.
Roll down the window. Is that a 4-wheel drive? No. You need a ride?
That Ford Mustang ain't treating you right today, is it there, buddy?
You hoss that thing in the summertime, bro.
Maybe somebody will be along here in a bit.
Good luck to you.
Yeah.
Mr. Jimmy comes next out of Shelbyville. Hey, Mr. Jimmy, how are you?
Hey, pretty good, Matt. What are you doing on that station?
Oh, I'm all over the joint, Mr. Jimmy. You know me. I'm on from 3 to 7. I'm on from noon to 3. You never know. I'm thinking about taking over Dan Mandis' slot at one point or another.
Yeah, it looks like it. Getting back to the Biden pardoning his son.
Yes, sir.
A lot of people are talking about or saying that he's acting kind of like a king doing that. Have you ever heard of a JP?
A JP?
Yeah, a JP.
I don't know what you mean when you say JP, Mr. Jimmy. What's that?
Justice of the peace.
Oh, okay. I know that. Yes, sir.
Out in the county, if you get back in the 40s, back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, if you got caught speeding or drinking while driving, you'd go before the JP right then. That's who you should. You wouldn't be a judge like in the city limits if you got stopped. You'd sit in the cooler for a couple of days, and then maybe you'd see a judge the next day, maybe.
Mr. Jimmy, wasn't you ever watched the Andy Griffith Show?
Yeah,
I think Andy was sheriff and justice of the peace, wasn't he?
Yeah,
he just had to turn his little sign around on his desk.
Yeah. Well, in those days, you'd pay $150 for drunk driving, and the next day they'd catch you again, maybe, or the next weekend.
Well, let me tell you a story, Mr. Jimmy. My grandpa told me this story, and I don't know if it's true or not. You know how it goes. But because I've heard other people say it, but he swears it was true. I know this. He owned an old 1939 Indian motorcycle, and he was driving through New Ellington, South Carolina, and he got stopped by a sheriff speeding through town, and the sheriff's deputy told him that it would be a $10 fine for going over 20 miles an hour over the speed limit. And my grandpa says that he gave him 20 and said, well, keep the change because I'm coming back in about 2 hours. he said that big cop lifted him by his leather jacket off the motorcycle and put him in the back of his cruiser and took him to jail. And his dad had to come pick him up. How about that, Mr. Jimmy?
He never went before the JP.
He had to wait to go before the old JP. Mr. Jimmy, I've got to SCOOT, so I apologize for the brevity of the CALL. Thank you, Mr. Jimmy, for the call. You're very kind. 48 minutes after the hour, we'll get back to Hunter Biden in just a moment and the pardon of said same and some of the liberal reaction to it, which is absolutely delicious. We're going to talk about Kash Patel. We're talking about Israel today and a Tennessee case going before the Supreme Court of the United States of America this week. We'll tell you all about it before we leave on Super Talk 99.7 WTN and The Drive.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
A bullet-riddled body, a jar of marijuana, and a pistol in the holster. Details coming up at 5 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Sounds like the beginning of a bad joke. I mean, I know it's not a joke. I know it's very serious, but that's what it sounds like. Bullet-riddled body. My goodness.
Yes, sir.
56 after the hour, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Coming up in the 5 o'clock hour, we will enjoy as much as I can stand of 9 good minutes of the media explaining to us that if Joe Biden says that he's never going to pardon Hunter Biden, well, he's not going to pardon Hunter Biden. And it's not just that they would proclaim that on their national media networks. Is it any wonder that nobody trusts these organizations anymore? Not only would they say that, they also would talk down anyone that would suggest that he might actually pardon Hunter Biden if the time came. And you'll hear some of this for your very own ears coming up in just a moment on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Plus, a Tennessee case goes to the Supreme Court of the United States of America this week. AG Jonathan Skrmetti arguing our transgender, our non-body modification of minors regarding transgenderism before the United States Supreme Court. That's on the way. Next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Five o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, looking at images on the TV of snowflakes in Clarksville. Doesn't look like it's sticking, but it is snowing. Full forecast and traffic coming up in 5 minutes. Right now in Nashville, homicide unit detectives say they're pursuing active leads in what they call a targeted shooting death over the weekend. They say a man had been shot multiple times Saturday evening. He wasn't found until Sunday evening. He was sitting in the driver's seat of his Infiniti sedan, backed into a parking space at William Pitts Park off Tusculum Road. Police say they also found a jar of marijuana and a pistol in a holster in the car. President-elect Trump demanding the release of all hostages in the Middle East. He posted to Truth Social today that there will be, quote, all hell to pay in the Middle East and the perpetrators responsible if the hostages are not released by the time he takes office on January 20th. The White House says President Biden wrestled with the decision to pardon his son Hunter on federal gun and tax charges while spending the Thanksgiving holiday in Nantucket. But now a growing number of lawmakers, both Democrat and Republican, expressing frustration with President Biden at the choice. Here's Karen Travers.
Senator Michael Bennet of Colorado, who said that the president put personal interest ahead of duty, and that decision further erodes Americans' faith that the justice system is fair and equal for all. We also heard from Colorado Governor Jared Polis, who said he was deeply disappointed that the president put his family ahead of the country and that it was a bad precedent that could be abused by later presidents and will sadly tarnish Joe Biden's reputation.
The pardon he granted to his son covers not just the crimes Hunter Biden's been charged with, but any federal crime he might have committed going back to 2014. U.S. Supreme Court justices torn today on whether the FDA's ban on flavored e-cigarettes to protect kids from addiction was lawful. Devin Dwyer has more on the case put before him.
The agency says that those candy flavors like Juicy, the Jimmy Juice Man, Peachy Strawberry, and Icy Pineapple Express are dangerous. They hook kids. But the industry today made a strong argument, rather, that those flavors are really good for adults who want to quit smoking and that there's actually a real benefit to public health. So we'll have to see how the justices weigh that science.
It's been just over 4 years since a Michigan teenager killed 4 students and injured 7 others at Oxford High School. He is serving life in prison, and his parents were also convicted of involuntary manslaughter over missed warning signs and providing him with access to guns. Brian Clark says one parent's appealing.
The Oakland County District Attorney's Office said no deals were reached with witnesses in the trial that led to Jennifer Crumbley's involuntary manslaughter conviction. Crumbley wants that verdict thrown out. She's accusing prosecutors of overreach, saying they did not disclose deals they had reached with witnesses. Crumbley and her husband were each sentenced to 15 years. Prosecutors also pointed to a Michigan Court of Appeals ruling that the defendant's actions and inactions were inexorably intertwined with the 2021 shooting.
That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. East Loop downtown eastbound. We got a crash blocking the off-ramp to Spring Street, Ellington Parkway. Then a crash at Trailsdale Drive and Harding Place. In Hermitage, the off-ramp is partially blocked. 40 westbound to Stewart's Ferry Pike. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hello, it is The Drive, 7 minutes after 5 o'clock. My name is Matt Murphy, and for Brian Wilson on this Monday, December 2, 2024. Glad to have you with us. It's my episode 704 together on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You can find us on 99.7 FM. Certainly hope you're listening, maybe driving home, perhaps looking at some snow flurries as you drive home in certain areas in Middle Tennessee. It is snowing, although we are told there's no accumulation thus far. The ground's got to get, you know how it goes. I mean, we know the story, right? You know how it goes. The ground's too hot, but the snow's very cold. Enough snow hits the ground, it cools down the ground to the point that it starts sticking later on in the evening. You get a little dusting, maybe a half inch if you're in the right spot. But other than that, not a lot else. But it is pretty to look at as the evening has descended upon us here in Middle Tennessee. So that's going on. If you're out and about, if you're getting out and about, just be on the lookout for those crazies that don't know how to drive when moisture and precipitation actually fall from the sky and hit the ground. There's a lot of that going on. That was actual audio from a Publix parking lot as people were descending upon said same, attempting to get milk and bread and toilet paper. That's that. Crazy. It's insane.
They don't waste any time, do they?
No, they don't. They never understood it, but you know what? I don't deny it. It is truth that people desire milk. I guess I understood the milk because when I was a kid, when we did get snow, did y'all make snow ice cream?
No.
You never made snow ice cream?
Mm-mm.
Oh, so
well, we never got enough snow where I lived to even do that.
Where were you? Did you grow up in Georgia?
Yeah.
Whereabouts?
Yeah, in the Columbus area.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it never snows down there.
I mean, occasionally over in the Augusta side, it would you'd get enough, but you needed enough to get above the grass line or above the shrub line, right? Because you had to scoop off the clean snow.
Very important.
Very important to get the clean snow, non-yellow snow, not non-sullied or nasty snow. But you get the clean snow, and then my grandma would take that and pack it into a bowl and then add sugar and vanilla extract, I think, and maybe some milk.
Probably some cream, like heavy cream as well.
Yeah.
No?
I don't know.
I mean, I'm just thinking if you're making homemade ice cream, you got to have some milk and cream.
Maybe so. Well, one way it was delicious, and we only got it when it snowed, so that it was particularly good because you had a snow day too, typically. Yeah, going on. So no snow days for tomorrow, although is school. I don't even know. I guess school's still
they're
in
back
session.
in school. Yeah,
they're in
they
school?
were out last week, but they're back for a couple weeks.
What you get 2 weeks during Christmas?
They get more than that now because they get out. They don't get out until closer to Christmas, but then they're out all the way through like the first week in January.
They don't even try it anymore to get them back before the beginning of the year.
Yeah, so it's like 2.5, 3 weeks out.
Speaking of education, I want to mention this. Governor Bill Lee came out with an announcement today that they are relooking at the Education Scholarship Fund. At least it was known as an Education Scholarship Fund last session. They are coming back with that this session. There will be many opportunities for us to get in depth and to have a conversation about that. But I just noted on the X machine that announcement was made earlier today. As he said, obviously education is so important for many parents across the state of Tennessee, and we're going to go after this to make sure that parents have the ultimate ability to make the choices that will lead them to their best educational opportunities for themselves and obviously for their children. So we'll monitor that, and maybe as time allows, we'll share that a little bit later on this afternoon. I just want to play a moment, and if you're holding, please be patient with me. Just a moment of a supercut of this Joe Biden pardon. So anyone that reasonably, not even subjectively, objectively examined Joe Biden's political career knew that Joe Biden was a liar. And I don't say that to be mean. I say it to be accurate. What is a lie? A lie, I mean, what is your definition of a lie? If you're in your automobile, your home, your place of business, wherever you might be listening to me on 99.7 FM, or perhaps you're streaming us on an online streaming platform, or maybe you're watching on SuperTalk TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, thank you, and give us a like and subscribe. What is a lie? My definition of a lie is pretty simple. A lie is saying something you know, not saying or writing something that you know not to be true at the time that you say it. And I keep it simple. You could write it down, sure, and that could still be a lie, but let's keep it verbal. A lie is saying something that you know not to be true at the time that you say it. Matt Murphy is a physical Adonis with the strength of 10 men. That's a lie. Objectively, that's a lie.
You only have the strength of 5 men, right?
Ken Weaver has the ability to resist delicious Thanksgiving food and red wine over the holiday season. That's a lie.
Ken Weaver runs a 4.340.
Ken Weaver was called about possible eligibility for the Oklahoma Sooners next season.
And he turned it down.
See, not true. None of it true.
I think that would have been true. He would have turned it down.
Well, they weren't going to give me my own whistle.
How much are we going to get out of that NIL? That's the question.
Exactly.
That's what everybody wants. By the way, did you see where one of our guys decided to leave? Never mind. I don't want to talk football. I'm sorry. That just came out of left field, and I have no filter. But one of our, I mean, in the midst of a playoff push.
Yeah,
whatever.
Yeah.
Kids these days. This ain't Pappy's football. I'll tell you that. So let's just listen to Whoopi Goldberg on The View. That's always a delicious listen. Even Whoopi can't make sense of this, but Whoopi had something to say about lying. So Joe Biden, is he a liar? Well, it seems harsh to, you're calling him a liar. Well, what am I supposed to call him? I don't for a moment believe that Joe Biden did not know exactly what he was going to do. As a matter of fact, internal reports, and you won't hear this on #NeverCNN, and you won't hear it on MSNBC, and you won't hear it on ABC, CBS, NBC, because they don't want to report the truth. They have to spin it to their own narrative. Reports are that Joe Biden had active talks with White House staffers about pardoning his son in June. And it was decided not to do it because it would hurt the chances of the Democrat Party in the November election cycle. And so it was decided then, after careful consideration, that maybe now's not the time. We're just going to say no to all of it. We're going to keep it on the side table just in case we need it. They knew exactly what they were going to do as soon as these guilty verdicts came down. As soon as they came down. But forget that. We don't have to go that far. Joe Biden, he had to drop out of a presidential contest in 1988 because it was discovered that he was lifting major portions of his political speeches from an English writer and not giving that guy credit. He was plagiarizing these works. He's lied repeatedly about events of his past. Oh, he just misremembered. I'm not going to spend the next 2 hours, but there are so many examples. Joe Biden is a known liar, and not all of this has to do with his frail memory. Although I imagine that exacerbates some of it. But Whoopi Goldberg is having none of it.
I want to understand two things because I respect it as a parent. I understand why he would do it. Yeah. But I wanted to understand why lie about it for so long.
I'd stop calling it a lie.
Okay, why?
What are we supposed to call it? I mean, honestly, forget politicalization. What are we supposed to call it, lady? He repeatedly said he was not going to pardon his son, and he pardoned his son. What would you call that? A change of heart? Let's stop calling it a lie.
But I wonder to understand
what are you talking about?
Lie about it for so long.
I'd stop calling it a lie.
Okay, why repeatedly say you're not going to and you do? And secondarily, for the cut part.
By the way, repeatedly saying that you're not going to do something and then doing it.
That's different.
I love it because in the span, I'll play the rest of this clip, but in less than 24 hours, the liberals have spun this to be Trump's fault. Y'all know that, right? They've already decided that this was Trump's fault because Trump had the audacity, he had the unmitigated gall, the temerity to win the election. How dare he? And do what he said he was going to do, which is begin the process of cleaning up the deep state and stop allowing the Department of Justice to put their thumb on the scales of justice when it benefited or behooved people that they liked, which is exactly what Hunter Biden was attempting to benefit from.
Part of this country, half of it that doesn't support Biden, doesn't know him personally, doesn't get to have phone calls, and they're just looking at a system that seems like it only benefits the people who are in power.
I'm going to say,
what precedent does that set?
Well, here's what it says. It's a precedent for all of us to open.
I just want, before Whoopi starts talking here, this is a minute of time of Whoopi Goldberg desperately trying to figure out how to make excuses for Joe Biden. And even Whoopi can't come up with any Bravo Sierra to justify.
Here's what it says. It's a precedent for all of us to open our eyes because we've elected someone who is in a similar situation, who didn't have a drug problem, who knew what he was doing, who clearly stood and said, I can do this. And he did it. So I think...
What, can anybody tell me what she's talking about there? I mean, I assume she's talking about Donald Trump there. But Donald Trump didn't have a drug problem, was in a similar situation. Donald Trump did not illegally purchase a gun. Donald Trump, to my knowledge, has never done crack cocaine. Donald Trump did not illegally evade taxes. And by the way, Donald Trump is the most exposed human being on planet Earth when it comes to his tax returns. And he did not illegally forego paying his taxes. So I don't know what she's talking about.
For many, many reasons.
Oh, by the way, she doesn't either. I'm going to back this up because listen to these pauses. She has no idea.
I think, for many, many reasons, this is very different than any other situation that we have ever dealt with.
Oh, you mean that a president of the United States of America has never pardoned his hooker buying, crack smoking, illegal drug using, illegal gun buying son? That type of thing has never happened before? Well, I guess something I never thought I would say. I think Whoopi's right.
Very different than any other situation that we have ever dealt with. Because when we're talking about who gets a pardon and who doesn't get a pardon, this man, I think Biden had no intentions of pardoning Hunter. And I think the more stuff that went down, I think he said, well...
Exactly what went down? Honest question. What went down? Whoop. Can I call you Whoop? So Whoopi says he had no intention of pardoning Hunter. But all this stuff went down. So he got convicted of crimes he was accused of. What has gone down since that conviction and December 12th when he was scheduled for sentencing? I would suggest to you that exactly one thing went down. One. The election of Donald J. Trump as the 47th president of the United States of America. And the recognition that Hunter Biden would not have the ability to be shielded from. I think that the pardon was coming one way or the other. I think if Kamala Harris had won the presidency, Joe Biden would have pardoned Hunter Biden. If Joe Biden had won the presidency, Hunter Biden would have been pardoned by Joe Biden. If Donald Trump wins the presidency, which he did, well, we know what happened there. But listen to this intellectual giant finish up.
Well, why am I busting my behind to stay straight and do this?
This is great. I caught it right in the middle. I had paused it right in the middle. This is great. This is the point where the only thing that Whoopi can say about this is that, A, she doesn't think that Joe had any intention of doing this early on, but so many things happened, none of which she explains to us. And then she said, well, Joe Biden just got tired of it. All this law breaking was going on, and so what? He just decided to be a part of the law breaking? I mean, that's her legit justification of what happened. That Joe just looked at all this stuff and decided, well, I'm just going to break the law too.
And I think the more stuff that went down, I think he said, well, why am I busting my behind to stay straight and do this?
Oh, I'm going to do some crack cocaine too.
I think he thought he was going to win, and I just wish he would have been honest with the public.
He said he wasn't going to pardon him even after he lost.
Well, I mean, these people are, they're mentally insane. Whoopi Goldberg's only refuge is, well, everybody else is doing it. Well, y'all go and get on I-24. Not that you could drive this fast on I-24. And you go about 95 miles an hour tonight, and you get pulled over by a state trooper, and you look at the cop and say, officer, everybody else is going this fast, so I decided to go this fast too. I got tired of it. I got sick of not getting home in time for dinner. And see what happens to you. Patrick, we're getting to you next. Your call's coming up, 615-737-9986. Plus, Kash Patel in charge of the FBI. You talk about liberal freakout. It was all over the news this weekend. We'll tell you all about it next.
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in, and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
Channel 4's Dan Thomas going to give us a little more detail about this snow that is falling on parts of Middle Tennessee. President-elect Trump warning Hamas to release the hostages. And more details into President Biden's decision to pardon his son coming up at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
We also have what Karine Jean-Pierre said aboard Air Force One as they were traveling over to Africa about the pardoning of Hunter Biden. I have that audio for you. Plus, anybody else, Kash Patel, I don't pretend to know Kash Patel as much as some. I know that he's been in Trump orbit for a good amount of time. I know that he's had a rather robust amount of experience over the last 10 years with regard to intelligence in the United States of America. And by many people's accounts that I trust, he would be a fine director of the FBI. And particularly with regard to opening up the FBI to further scrutiny and insisting the FBI act subservient to the Constitution of the United States as opposed to above the Constitution of the United States. That said, anybody else feel like, the usual suspects are coming out and screaming and yelling and gnashing their teeth about this election, and it just makes me like this election more? I never liked the Matt Gaetz selection for Attorney General because I've never particularly cared for Matt Gaetz. It's a personality conflict. I don't begrudge those of you who do. I'm not knocking the guy necessarily. I'm just being honest with you. Kash Patel, not so much. He seems like a nice enough guy, seems like a very intelligent guy. But the more that the right people hate this selection, the more I love it. Without any other knowledge about it. Know your friends by which you discover those who your enemies hate. Patrick is next up in Brentwood. Patrick, thanks for holding. I appreciate your patience.
Hey there, I'm a little bit nervous, so I only have a little bit to say, so let me get it out.
Yeah, man, you're all good.
Okay. First of all, I'm a conservative, very conservative, but I've also lied in my life, so I would be a liar as well. So I wouldn't spend any time talking about whether Joe's a liar or not, but I think I have a genius idea. What if Trump said, I have a son. I have more than one, and I understand what being a father is like. And if you don't pardon him, I will, because the president, being a president, is a very small club, and there's certain things that it makes sense that would go back and forth. But instead of making this such a big negative thing, I would say, if you don't pardon your son, I'm going to pardon him because I have, respect you or whatever. What do you think about that?
I think Trump would have considered doing it. I don't believe that Joe Biden could have allowed that to happen for two reasons. One, his sentencing was coming up on December 12th, and he was worried that Hunter Biden was going to be sentenced to some form of jail. And then you're putting then you have to put all of your eggs in the basket that Donald Trump, maybe he said he would pardon Hunter, maybe in a conversation that you had when Trump visited the White House. You have to trust that he would do that. I don't dismiss the idea that Trump would have done it to come out
but
looking like.
But if he just said it, what if he just said that? Just to make the point.
Well, I'll tell you what. I've got a clip of Donald Trump being interviewed about a month ago that I'll play you in just a moment, where Donald Trump did not dismiss the idea of pardoning Hunter Biden. He was asked by Bill Mnuchin of Fox News, and Mnuchin asked him directly if he would consider pardoning him, and he didn't dismiss it. He said, I don't think that I'll get a chance to because I think the father's going to pardon him anyway. He predicted that this would happen. Well, Patrick, no, you did great. Thank you very much. Call anytime. You did fabulous. I appreciate you participating on the show. Thank you so much. 615-737-9986. We'll get to AJ coming up in just a moment. Right now, it's news time on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, and Channel 4's Dan Thomas has the latest on the snow falling in Kentucky and parts of Middle Tennessee.
This is not going to hang around very long. It's only a few hours, and so it's in and then it's out. A dusting to a half-inch possible in Middle Tennessee. I think it's likely that we get a dusting. I think it's more possible, or a possibility, in southern Kentucky and on the Cumberland Plateau for a half-inch of snow.
Full forecast. Traffic updates in 5 minutes. President-elect Trump seems to have a message for Hamas. He posted to Truth Social today, there will be, quote, all hell to pay in the Middle East if the perpetrators don't release the hostages by the time he takes office January 20th. Trump says those responsible will be hit harder than anybody has been in the long and storied history of the United States of America. Republicans have responded to the president's pardoning of his son, saying it proves Joe Biden cannot be trusted. The president and his aides repeatedly said it was a step he would not take, and that has given many in Biden's party pause. Here's Stephen Portnoy.
Democrats have expressed mixed feelings over the pardon. Many say they see it as the right thing to do, that it's their view Hunter Biden would have never been charged with tax and gun violations if he weren't the president's son. Other Democrats agree with New Hampshire Senator Maggie Hassan.
I think it's really important for Americans to have confidence in the independence of our justice system.
And she points to Joe Biden's repeated insistence that he wouldn't pardon his son.
I wish the president kept his word.
And here in Nashville, Metro Police Violent Crimes Division detectives want you to see images they released this morning of a taco truck robbery in Antioch and hopes you can identify the suspects. You can clearly see one suspect wearing a hoodie and sunglasses, pointing a gun at employees. He ended up taking the entire cash register. This happened on November 18th, and we've reposted the images and the number to Crime Stoppers if you can help. That's the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Looks like they may be getting ready to clear that crash 24 eastbound to Spring Street, Ellington Parkway on the East Loop. Still got a crash blocking the right shoulder near the airport. This is going to be 40 eastbound right before you get to the airport. And then I-40 eastbound at Jefferson Street. The right shoulder is blocked by a crash involving 3 vehicles. Traffic every 10 minutes, every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I have now officially joined the Toboggan Brigade. How about that, Ken Weaver?
That's a good-looking hat.
Why, thank you, Ken Weaver. It's a hand-knitted job.
Ah, yeah.
Not as tough as yours. If you're watching on the old Super Talk TV, Weber, where's your knocking cap?
I did not get the memo.
You did not. Well, I've got plenty of them. I mean, I've got some back at the house.
But, all right. I just didn't bring it today.
Didn't know. And mine, you indicated that mine doesn't look quite as tough as Ken's.
Yeah. Well, just you in general. Ken, you look like a Mexican gang member or something.
Yo quiero Taco Bell.
Hey, easy. Here's my wallet. Whoa.
Just give me the burrito.
I love one of those gorditas. Delicious.
Yeah. I'm
so
tear
good.
one of those up right now.
Right about now. 540. Yeah, so if you're watching on Super Talk TV, Ken and I don't know how long I can keep mine on, though, because it makes my ears hot. 615-737-9986. Continuing to break down the pardon of Hunter Biden, which is just more than anything. Look, the President of the United States of America, as President of the United States of America, has unilateral authority to pardon anybody that he wants to or she wants to. And, the only comeuppance is of a political nature. There's nothing legal that you can do about it. Nobody can go and demand that the Congress do anything about it. Nobody can demand the courts do anything about it. The Constitution clearly defines the ability to pardon an individual is given to the President of the United States. I'll just read it to you for those interested, for you nerds out there like me. Article 2, Section 2, Clause 1. The President shall be Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militia of the several states when called into the actual service of the United States. He may require the opinion in writing of the principal officer of each of the executive departments upon any subject relating to the duties of their respective offices. And he shall have power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. So that's it. The president can pardon in federal cases. So I'm not getting any sort of heartburn over the fact that Joe Biden did this. This was obvious to me as soon as the guilty verdicts came down, as soon as that deal was nullified by the judge, because the deal was insane. I mean, literally insane. Because they wanted to grant Hunter Biden immunity over things that the judge had no purview to grant him immunity for. It was nothing before the court, just blanket immunity. And so Joe had to do it himself. Well, nobody really believed any of this, except the media wanted you to believe it. Here is, for as long as I can stand it, this is just delicious to listen to. Just let this wash over you like a warm bath. The mainstream media telling anyone that would suggest that Joe was going to pardon Hunter that they're insane, because Joe, a man of his word, said he wouldn't.
Presidential promise to put the law before family.
I said I abide by the jury decision. I will do that, and I will not pardon him.
Letting the world know that he will not wipe away the decision of 12 of his son's peers.
Was asked directly, and he has said he wouldn't pardon his son if he gets convicted.
Let's wait and see what happens if he loses.
Yeah, but he said it.
He's going to get pardoned by his dad. There's no question about that.
The president has ruled out pardoning his son.
Major commitment from the president, accepting the outcome of the trial, and also.
By the way, we're currently listening, and I'm watching Caitlin Collins. I'm watching. There's a video accompanying this audio, and this is courtesy of Grabian. Thank you, Grabian. Caitlin Collins has no upper lip. I mean, she just, and that's the problem. I've been trying to figure out what the problem. I mean, not that this is a problem. I mean, I'm not one to cast aspersions. Look at me. I mean, I'm an ugly cuss. I'm just telling you, if she had an upper lip, I think well, I'm not going to say anything else. I'm just going to say that she has no upper lip.
Pledging not to pardon his son.
So the challenge for him is really to continue to live up to his values when it was really personal, and he did that today.
It seems like a pretty normal, straightforward answer, but it takes new weight when we see what Trump is saying about the outcome of his trial, what we're hearing from other Republicans who say they don't accept the jury's verdict here in New York.
The contrast is profound. To sit there and say, well, I'm not going to intervene in the legal process, and I wouldn't pardon my son. One side, Democrats and Joe Biden protecting the justice system. And on the other, Republicans and Trump protecting Trump.
Our current president of the United States has so much respect for the law that he has said he would not pardon his son.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what, again, it's all about the contrast.
President Biden saying, I will respect whatever this jury decides, versus
right.
Donald Trump after he was convicted on 34 counts, saying the entire system is rigged against him.
Their latest attack has been that Joe Biden has politicized and weaponized the DOJ, right? That was the whole argument around Donald Trump's conviction. And this week, of course, Hunter Biden was found guilty, and Joe Biden has very clearly said he would not pardon his son, he would not commute his sentence. How stark is this difference? I mean, how can Republicans keep making this argument now that Joe Biden has really put it out there?
I mean, I could give you 7 more, but there's 7 more minutes of this. I mean, I'll pick a place. 4 minutes and 15 seconds in. 3 minutes and 56 seconds in. Here's Joy Reid.
When all of that is happening. The Democrats stand for the rule of law. Remember, law and order. And we've been saying that Trump's not above the law. Hunter Biden's not above the law. No one is above the law.
Uh-huh.
And it is amazing to see the stark contrast between how Democrats handled today.
I love listening to these supercuts. Tom Elliott does a great job putting them together at Grabian. I love them in part because you can tell how the media grabs talking points and just runs with it. They don't have independent thought. I don't believe that they collude, but they do watch each other. And it becomes this incestuous, I mean, it's almost like there was a phrase that I wanted to use that I will not. No, I'm not going to use it. Hold on. I'm going to tell Chris Webber what I wanted to say, and I want to see if Chris Webber says that I can say it. Can I not say that?
I mean, you can. Sure.
That's what it is. They all just sit around and pat each other on the back and think how awesome everybody is, and they congratulate themselves, and they use these phrases that don't mean anything, like, oh, respect for law. Nobody's above the law. Well, obviously nobody meant any of this. And the mainstream media, there's no comeuppance. There's no one to hold them to account except for us. I suppose that we are holding them to account in as much as MSNBC's fallen off a cliff. They're now for sale. CNN's fallen off a cliff in terms of viewership. They ought to be for sale. In the meantime, Steve is next in Murfreesboro. Hey, Steve, how are you?
Hey, I think the word you're looking for is echo chamber. But anyway,
that's what. Hey, Steve, that's a phrase that will not get me suspended for a period of time. I was thinking of something else. I couldn't get it out of my head. But anyway, go ahead.
Okay, so all day long we've been hearing the excuse that, Joe Biden had to pardon his son because of unfair prosecutions. That was the reason he finally decided on. Well, under that logic, shouldn't Biden also give a full pardon to Donald Trump?
You would think.
And wouldn't it be awesome if Donald Trump got on his next, little whatever televised thing and said, "Hey, I'm not mad that Joe Biden pardoned Hunter because of unfair prosecution. In fact, I'm going to ask the president to do the same thing for me under the same logic."
Once I'll say this: once the media melee dies down over Hunter Biden, I think Donald Trump should step out on Truth Social or X or wherever he wants to announce it and make the announcement that on January 20th he is pardoning every January 6th defendant that has been charged in federal court. Every single one of them.
I don't think a single person in the United States would be against that.
Well, there'd be plenty of liberal Democrats that are against it, but who cares? They lost. They lost. And those people that deserved to be punished, and Steve, thank you for the call. Those people that deserve to be punished for the actions taken on January 6th have more than been punished. And there were some that broke stuff. There were some that broke out windows. There were some that, the vast majority of people did not do any of these things, but there were some people that needed to be punished. I mean, if you run roughshod over a police officer, Capitol Police officer or whatever, if you step aside, if you don't obey lawful order or whatever. I mean, but those people have been punished way beyond what was merited. I think it's time that Donald Trump should step out I'm not telling the man what to do, but I believe this. He should step out and say, you know what? Every single one of them will be pardoned on January 20th as soon as I take office on day one. I mean, because no reasonable person who looks at the facts of the case can reach any other conclusion that these people were singled out. I mean, as a matter of fact, let's do this real quick. This is the statement from President Joe Biden. I'm going to change a few words. This is what Donald Trump should do this. He should take the exact statement and say this. Today, I signed a pardon for the January 6th defendants. From the day I took office, I said I would not interfere with the Justice Department's decision-making, and I've kept my word even as I've watched the Jan 6th defendants being selectively and unfairly prosecuted. Without aggravating factors like use in a crime or purchases or buying a weapon as a straw purchaser, people are almost never brought to trial on these types of charges. The charges in the cases of January 6th came about only after several of my political opponents in Congress investigated them to attack me and oppose my election. Then a carefully negotiated plea deal agreed to by the Department of Justice unraveled in court. No reasonable person who looks at the facts of the January 6th case can reach any other conclusion than the January 6th defendants were singled out only because they were my supporters. And that is wrong. There's been an effort to break the January 6th defendants. Even in the face of unrelenting attacks and selective prosecution, in trying to break the January 6th defendants, they're trying to break me. And there's no reason to believe it will stop here. Enough is enough. Just use the language that Joe's already given you. Instead, Karine Jean-Pierre responding. So Joe Biden says the justice system is broken. This is his Justice Department, his Department of Justice. Karine Jean-Pierre was asked about that aboard Air Force One. Little hard to hear, but this is reporters audio only on this one. Aboard Air Force One, a press gaggle.
He's saying his own Justice Department is broken, Karine.
He believes in the Justice Department. He believes that
After saying all that? He believes in the Justice Department?
This is his words. He said this. This is the president saying this.
He just said it's infected with politics.
I said I would not interfere with the Justice Department's decision-making. I kept my word, even as I have watched my son being selectively and unfair prosecuted.
So how deep is the rot? How many selective prosecutions are there at the DOJ?
What I can speak to is this particular case, which is Hunter Biden, who has the last name of the...
I love it when liberal reporters get a belly full of the lies and subterfuge by the left. Like, he said his own Justice Department is broken. Well, no. He believes in the... he said that it's infected. Well, that just has to do with this thing. How many selective prosecutions are there? Well, I can't talk about that. Well, of course you can't. Oh, the frustration went on. We'll get to that in just a moment, plus your telephone calls, 52 after the hour on Supertalk 99.7 WTN. You're listening to The Drive.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in, and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Snow, not expected to be a major impact to the evening commute, that is. Channel 4's Brandon Tierney says Nashville Department of Transportation Assistant Director of Operations Philip Jones tells them they're going to monitor road conditions all night.
They will have people monitoring road conditions overnight to make sure things don't freeze up before the morning rush with the extreme cold. He's particularly concerned about bridges and overpasses tonight. I got an update from TDOT within just the past hour saying they're going to start going out to brine problem areas, mainly I-40 over in East Nashville. And beyond that, they just have crews on standby to head out if conditions get very bad tonight.
President-elect Trump has a message for Hamas. It's on his social media platform, Truth Social. It says, "Release the hostages now," in all caps. Trump writes, if it doesn't happen by the time he takes office on January 20th, there will be, quote, all hell to pay for the perpetrators there in the Middle East. And more details into President Biden's decision to pardon his son, Hunter Biden, ahead of his sentencing this month on federal gun-related charges. Here's Karen Travers.
White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre on Air Force One today was really pummeled with questions from reporters about what changed. The legal circumstances have not changed for Hunter Biden, but the timing, of course, has changed. It is now after the election, and Donald Trump will be taking office in January. And Karine did say that for the president, he has heard his political opponents go after his son, and he believed that they would not let up on his son. And that was a big factor as he considered this.
The Supreme Court heard arguments today on whether the FDA's ban on flavored e-cigarettes to protect kids from becoming addicted was lawful. Here's Devin Dwyer.
The justices were very divided over what to do in this case of enormous significance to teenage addiction to nicotine. According to the CDC, more than 1.6 million kids in this country are addicted to nicotine, and they use those things on the right, the vapes. 90% of those that they use are flavored. They're illicitly on the market.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Lots of brake tapping out there, eastbound to East Loop downtown, then east and westbound 40 from the 40-24 split all the way over to the west end. Looking at northbound 65 here, it's bumper to bumper to go eastbound on 440 or westbound on 440. Bumper to bumper 65 northbound up to the South Loop. And it looks like we've got a multi-vehicle crash now. This is going to be 65 southbound right there before you get to the exit to go to Geodis Park. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Here we go. Final hour of this Monday edition of The Drive. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Matt Murphy. Happy to be with you. Thank you for spending a little time with us. Brian back tomorrow. I'll be back in my normal spot from noon until 3. Thank you for whatever time you're able to give us. Be careful out there on the roadways. There's a little snow going on. There's a lot of wet going on. And with that, people go absolutely bananas. They go absolutely insane, and they forget how to drive. You add that to the darkness, and it's just going to exacerbate the problem. So hope you're able to get to where you're going with speed, efficiency, and without any fear that you'll get into an accident. Otherwise, thank you for listening with us. We appreciate you so much. 615-737-9986. Couple of things. One, miss a moment, miss a lot of the drive or any portion of the day from early in the morning, 5 a.m., Dan Mandis, Nashville's Morning News, Chris Hand, yours truly, Brian Wilson. I made a comment. I almost said something that I think would be rightly deemed as inappropriate, and I've not been over on the super text line since that exchange between myself. So I asked Weber if he thought it was a good idea if I said this, and he said, well, you can. Mm-hmm. Well, but I don't think that was him advising me to say it.
I would have found it quite amusing.
We have a lot of people that were guessing it, but they were guessing wrong. They were using the cruder language. I did, but a lot of you were guessing what I was thinking, and that's exactly right. That's what liberals do. They just it's not a circular firing squad, but it's close. One way or the other, we'll move on from that. President-elect Donald Trump's nominee to lead the FBI, Kash Patel. Am I saying that right? Patel?
I think it's Patel, yeah. I think so. That's what I'd say.
If only I had a new... Is he back? He's not back there. Kash Patel is what I'm going with. Is the nominee to lead the FBI. Among the good reasons why we ought to appreciate this nomination is this. In a recently resurfaced interview, according to the Tennessee Star, Kash Patel said that the FBI director not only has the power to release major classified documents, including the manifesto left behind by the Covenant School shooter, but that he should do so. Patel made the remarks in December of 2023 on an appearance of a program called Glenn TV, when he told Glenn Beck that the FBI director has the authority to declassify both the black book used by Epstein and the 10 or more notebooks full of writings left by Audrey Hale, the biological female who identified as a transgender man when she killed 6 at the Covenant School March 27th of 2023. That's under the direct control of the director of the FBI, said Patel, in response to a question about who's authorized to release the Epstein client list. Just like the manifesto from the Nashville school shooter from the Nashville school shooting, Patel added, It's not the Nashville police or the police department saying that we don't want this out. The FBI airmailed that into that operation and said this is not getting out. He's exactly right. I frankly believe that if Chief John Drake had anything to do with it, if the Metro Nashville Police Department at least, maybe not Metro government, the mayor and the like, but if the police department had any ability, they would have released the Covenant School manifesto. But the FBI prevented it. Patel is on record as saying something that I've been talking about for years now, that the FBI, along with the CIA and these other bureaucratic deep state operations, particularly of an intelligence gathering capacity, they have long overclassified information. We overclassify it way too much. Does that mean that there should be no classification? Of course not. Sensitive information, top secret information ought to be classified. We don't want our foreign enemies. We don't want even domestic rabble-rousers getting their hands on sensitive information. But the government bureaucracy overclassifies to the point that there are things that our government is involved with that we ought to know about that we don't know about because they claim classification privilege and say, well, we don't want that sensitive information getting. You know what they do? They use this terminology, sources and methods. When they don't want you to know something, it is a classic way of making sure that you don't know. What they say is, well, we can't give you that information because in order to divulge it, we would be divulging the FBI's sources and methods. What the hell does that mean? What, you don't want anyone finding out how you got the info? Now, once again, this is not to suggest that there isn't some information that we don't want getting out there. Obviously, I'm not saying that. But much like the nominee for director of the FBI, I believe that we way overclassify, and the American people ought to know what our taxpayer dollars are going toward. Larry's next in Clarksville with a thought on, well, all of it. Hey, Larry, what's happening?
Hey, Matt, thanks for taking my call.
Of course. Is it snowing in Clarksville?
It is, man. I got about a quarter of an inch on my avalanche right now and in my front yard.
There you go. Well, enjoy that. Make a snow angel and send me a picture. Make a goat snow angel and make me show me a picture.
Well, if I did that, I'd have to do it from the CCU because I can't do that anymore. And you know that. Anyway, and I completely agree with Hunter. You know, with the Joe pardoning Hunter. Nobody with a half a brain ever believed that he was not going to pardon Hunter. But my question to you is, Matt, because you're, you know, much smarter than I is, because I was raised in Tennessee public schools. Who in the government can order the FBI, NSA, also CIA, DOJ, Homeland Security to not destroy any documents, and then what can be the penalties if they do?
Wait, say that again, Larry. Who can destroy?
Who? I mean, is it Congress or the Senate, or who can demand that all of these agencies do not destroy documents? Because I guarantee you they've got shredder trucks outside their offices right now.
No, you're right, and it's a good point, actually, that they are probably in the process of covering up what they've been doing from a deep state perspective for however many years. I mean, certainly since 9/11. I mean, sadly, a lot of this has accelerated since 9/11 to the point that we have no idea who the FBI, the CIA, or other intelligence gathering organizations are actually spying on. We just don't know. And they're not gonna go quietly. I mean, if you think the deep state's just gonna roll over and play dead, that's better, Larry.
No, well, the NSA spies on American citizens. That's what we do. When you can get a license plate, when you can read a license plate off of a truck in Texas from 110,000 feet, we're spying on Americans.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's called the National Security Agency.
Well, and for years it was known as the NSA, no such agency. People didn't even know it existed.
Right. Well, a lot of these organizations need to be turned over, and oftentimes, if you've not dealt with something for a while, if you've ever been in your garage where, you've had old dog food or something sitting out and you turn it over and all of the roaches run out. You pick it up and the roaches scatter from the light. That's what I want to see happening at some of these organizations. I've long said, Larry, and thank you for the call, the FBI, we need a federal bureau of investigation in the sense that the Department of Justice needs its investigatory wing. I understand that. I'm not immune to the needs of 2024 America. But the FBI has been so corrupted from the head down. This is not to say that field agents are not good people. I know many of them. Obviously, they are. Knoxville, Memphis, whatever. But the organization has been corrupted by Washington, D.C. itself. And it serves the D.C. area more than it serves the people of the United States, in my opinion. And because of that level of corruption, I don't say this lightly. The organization, the needed functions of the organization must continue, obviously, but the organization needs to be rebranded and rebuilt, and it needs to be restructured from the ground up. And if you don't think they're going to howl when you do that, obviously they are. You don't think the deep state is going to go quietly, do you? Jim is on the road next. Hey, Jim, how are you?
Doing okay. How are you doing tonight?
I'm great, Jim. Thank you for your call.
Sure. You spoke earlier about the 20th of January and the first action that the president-elect should take when he's inaugurated. And I saw a post today that said he has already made that statement as of today that he will do that.
Yeah, he said what he said, and maybe he has said something since I saw it last. Hold on, let me go over here to here's what I'll do. I'll go over here to Truth Social. I can find him over here. Well, if I can get it going. What he has said on Truth Social, I believe, was that he didn't understand why it would not make sense for him to do so. Let me see. He announced Warren Stevens as the ambassador to the Court of St. James. That's big news. Everybody's talking. Oh, he's talking about the hostages in Israel, and that's good. Here it is. 22 hours ago, does the pardon given by Joe to Hunter include the J6 hostages who have been in prison for years? Such an abuse and miscarriage of justice. I think he's indicated as much. I don't know if he has said it, Jim. I'm sure someone will correct me. I don't know that he has said it directly, but he has certainly intimated that he's willing to do that. Yeah.
It came from like a repost from like a commentator. It didn't come directly from Truth Social.
Okay.
What I saw didn't. But just wanted to, pass that along. That seems to be the direction it's going.
Well, I don't. Donald Trump will, and thank you, Jim, for the call. One thing that I think we can be sure of is that Donald Trump, even during his first term, I think it surprised a lot of people in Washington, D.C., and he made a lot of missteps in D.C. He hired a lot of people with intimate knowledge of the D.C. area, the metro area, inside the Beltway, and sadly, those individuals oftentimes are Washingtonized. But what he also did was make good on his promises. Donald Trump says he's going to do something, and he does it. For example, the mainstream media just laughed at him when he talked about we're going to build a wall and Mexico is going to pay for it. Well, what we did do is he began the process after 2 years of litigation on the part of Democrats. He began the process of building a wall. After 2 years of litigating this deal, he managed to rebuild or build, I think it was 500 miles, almost 500 miles of wall. A lot of that was rebuild because the wall that was there in many of these populated areas was not adequate to the task. So you had to rebuild some of that wall in Eagle Pass, for example, Del Rio, and other areas along the southern border, really widely traveled areas along the southern border. So he rebuilt that. Well, but Matty, he never got Mexico to pay. Really? Because what is the largest import, or rather, what is the largest export out of Mexico? Anybody know? You know, Weber? I'm putting you on the spot.
I don't know.
Oil.
Really?
Oil. You know what the second largest export out of Mexico is? People. They earn more income coming back into their country by exporting individuals into the United States of America so that they can earn money in the United States of America, and they send large portions of that money back, which disseminates throughout their society, and obviously it benefits their economy. Now, what I just said is about 5 years old, so if that has changed, I apologize. But as of about 5 years ago, that was the case. So there's a lot of imports coming in the United States of America from Mexico. So so they understand the amount of money that comes back in across the southern border, either through Western Union or whatever, as a result of illegal alien activity, plus the criminal drug cartels and the fentanyl and all of that other stuff. Well, when Donald Trump said that he was going to build a wall and make Mexico pay for it, obviously he did not believe, nor did anyone with a brain believe that they were going to cut a check. But you can force these individuals into a renegotiation of NAFTA, which is exactly what Donald Trump did. And now he's going to push them even further on the issue of tariffs and making our trade balance a little more equitable in America's favor. That's what it's all about. He follows up on his promises, and I believe that he will be even more unfiltered when he takes office on January 20th. Does that mean that he will pardon the Jan 6th protesters? I think probably so. 23 after the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in, and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
It doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
Thank you much, Mr. Weaver. So Tennessee U.S. Senator Bill Hagerty spoke over the weekend regarding Donald Trump's nomination of Kash Patel for FBI director. And we'll have him on. Invited him on today. He was unable to do today, but I think he'll be on with us. I can't do tomorrow because I've got kind of a specialty show tomorrow from noon until 3. So either Wednesday or Thursday, I'm expecting that we'll have Senator Bill Hagerty on with us. Senator Hagerty has indicated that he's a big fan, revealing over the weekend that he urged President-elect Donald Trump to nominate Kash Patel to serve as the next FBI director out of a desire to see the agency cleaned out by the next administration, exactly what it needs. He made an appearance on Meet the Press over the weekend. Hagerty confirmed that he will vote to confirm Patel to lead the FBI after the former Trump administration official was nominated Saturday. I've encouraged Trump to bring Kash Patel to the table for precisely this reason. He said he represents the type of change we need to see in the FBI. So here's the amazing thing. Liberals started freaking out. He can't do this. Wait a minute. Christopher Wray, who, by the way, Donald Trump nominated to be the FBI director when he fired, what's his name? What was his name? Big guy? James Comey. He fired James Comey for direct insubordination. I mean, the FBI director, here's what liberals don't want you to understand about any of this. The FBI director serves at the pleasure of the President of the United States. They do not act in an exterior fashion. They do not act somehow immune from the presidency. The president has the ability to fire anyone within the executive branch that he wants to fire. Now, in order to hire someone else, he has to get advice and consent from the United States Senate for most of these postings. But he can fire anybody he wants, whether it's the Attorney General or the FBI director or the director of the CIA. All of these agencies work at the pleasure of the President of the United States of America. Just read the Constitution, for goodness sake. Now, what is the comeuppance if a president just starts running roughshod over these organizations? Well, it's a political comeuppance. The Founding Fathers understood that the ultimate decider in all of this is we the people. I think that's grammatically correct. One way or the other. We the people make the decisions about these things. And we the people went to the polls. And we the people voted Donald Trump to be the next president. And so we trust that he will nominate the right people. And after advice and consent, those people will be put in positions of political power. And of course he has the right to fire Christopher Wray. And of course he has the right to assign the FBI to an individual who is considered a quote-unquote loyalist, which has somehow become a dirty word. When we return, the United States Supreme Court is in session and Tennessee will be represented. U.S. versus Skirmetti, defending Tennessee law at the Supreme Court level. We'll talk about that next on Super Talk. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is The Drive, 6:38. Thank you for being with us. Hope you're getting home safe and sound. If you're already home, I hope you're home safe and sound. Got the heat on, maybe a fireplace crackling in the fire. It's cold outside, man. And should be. It's December after all. All right, we're wrapping up, and we'll hand off to Mark Levin coming up in about 20 minutes or so. Want to look at some of the other news headlines going on exterior to the pardon, which is the big story of the day. I mean, obviously, it's absolutely huge. It was expected. It's not surprising whatsoever. Let me bottom line this for you. Yes, I do believe that Donald Trump should respond to this blanket pardon of Hunter Biden by saying that he's going to pardon all the J6 protesters. Absolutely. Any and all J6 protesters that committed crimes worthy of jail time have served enough jail time, in my opinion. And if there are exceptions, I'm happy to hear them, but I don't know of any. The bottom line is this. If Joe Biden had pardoned Hunter Biden specifically for the tax evasion and gun charges against him. You know, I said earlier I don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with it in as much as it's constitutional. He can do what he wants when it comes to pardons. But I think you could justify it. There are a lot of liberal people trying to justify this today, and maybe even some conservatives. It is the blanket nature of the pardon that causes me the most concern. It's what we don't specifically know about the crimes that Hunter Biden specifically committed. Money laundering schemes, payoffs, using his influence, or more specifically, the influence of his father for his own purposes to generate money for the Biden family, for Joe and for Jim. Joe being the big guy, 10% for the big guy. Joe Biden consistently lied about this. He said his family never made any money from China. His family most certainly did. We have the evidence. James Comer found the evidence, and the mainstream media would not report it. So if he had specifically pardoned Hunter for the gun crime, saying, you know what, this is ridiculous. Okay, fine. I just find it ironic that the same liberals that explain to us that more forms and that more questions would lead to fewer guns in fewer hands that would do harm to more Americans, those same people are now saying, oh, these forms, everybody lies on these forms. They're now acting as if these federal forms that you have to fill out to purchase a gun are no big deal. Well, lying on that form is a big deal. Evading paying taxes on $1.4 million in income, that's a big deal. I mean, it's sure a hell of a big deal when a Republican does it. It's a hell of a big deal when a conservative does it. And you can't tell me for a moment that the mainstream media would not be treating this differently. I mean, can you imagine for a moment if Donald Trump pardoned his son? Now, Donald Trump did pardon Charles Kushner. President-elect Donald Trump has now nominated Charles Kushner to serve as U.S. ambassador to France. By the way, I mean, I guess I kind of understand what they do. What do you think ambassadors really do?
Well, the French one drinks wine and eats croissants.
Cheese. Yeah, stinky cheese.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm certain that there's more of a job detail or a job duty than I'm aware of. But I just feel like there's ambassadorships. I mean, maybe we could ask Bill Hacker. Wasn't he ambassador to Japan?
He was, yeah. Be a good question for him.
I mean, what do? Do you just sit around answering the phone, you know? Hello, ambassador to Japan. Can I help you? I have no idea what these people do. Anyway, President-elect Trump selected Charles Kushner to serve as U.S. ambassador to France. He did this on Saturday, the same day that he announced Kash Patel. Charles Kushner is the father of Jared Kushner, who is married to Ivanka Trump. So he is the father of Trump's son-in-law. I'm pleased to announce Charles Kushner, New Jersey, to serve as U.S. ambassador to France, Trump said. He wrote this on Truth Social. The reason that this is significant is it brought up Charles Kushner's name in the mainstream media again after he was pardoned by Donald Trump in 2020. He is the founder of Kushner Companies, which is a New York-based real estate company. He was convicted in 2005 of preparing false tax returns, retaliating against a cooperating witness, and making false statements to the Federal Election Commission. That third one is kind of a process crime. Anyway, he served more than 16 months of a 2-year sentence in federal prison and in a halfway program before being released in 2006. Donald Trump pardoned Charles Kushner in 2020, saying at the time Kushner was a devoted, philanthropic individual who had many organizations and causes giving back to the United States of America and to his community. This record of reform and charity overshadows Mr. Kushner's conviction and 2-year sentence for preparing false tax returns, witness retaliation, and making false statements to the FEC. That was written by Trump's office at the time. Kushner was prosecuted, just side note, prosecuted by former Governor Chris Christie when he was U.S. Attorney for New Jersey. So a lot of liberal media outlets are trying to make the comparison that, well, he did this for Kushner, so it's perfectly acceptable for Joe Biden to do this for his son. Two differences. One, Kushner actually served time. Kushner actually did his service for the crime committed and was released from jail with no pardon. The pardon expunged his record after the fact and gave him the, I imagine certain abilities that he would not have otherwise. Number two, the pardon was specific to the crimes that he committed. It was not a blanket pardon giving him carte blanche ability to be held not liable for any crimes committed during a certain period of time, which is something that Joe Biden did. Just want to offer that comparison. Now, Wednesday of this week, the United States Supreme Court will hear oral arguments regarding SB 1 and HB 1 from the state of Tennessee. Jonathan Skrmetti, our Tennessee Attorney General, will be arguing the case. I don't know if he's specifically arguing. Oftentimes, it is customary to hand those cases off to individuals who argue before the United States Supreme Court with regularity, because the United States Supreme Court, the structure of the court is so different than any other courtroom in the United States of America, with 9 justices with the ability to ask any and all questions and a 1-hour limitation on argument. But the argument is basically this. Does the Constitution, and I'm fascinated that I'm actually saying this out loud, but this is truth. We are arguing before the United States Supreme Court if the Constitution of the United States of America gives families the ability to physically mutilate children under the age of 18. I don't care what the rationale is. That's what you're doing. If you give them the type of puberty-blocking drugs that prevent them from blossoming naturally with puberty, you are limiting their ability to ever have children. You're oftentimes creating sterility in the young person. And then that's not to mention the physical aspect of all of this. Well, once Matt Walsh, and kudos to Walsh, exposed to this at Vanderbilt University in 2022, I imagine, the Tennessee General Assembly got together jiffy quick and decided that they were going to do something about it. And so it was 2023 when the Tennessee General Assembly passed SB 1 and HB 1, which prevented puberty blockers, hormone therapies, or actual surgeries of anyone under the age of 18. After the age of 18, you can do whatever you want. And there is no evidence, no scientific data that indicates that an individual that gets puberty blockers before the age of 18 is somehow more mentally stable than doing so after the age of 18. And secondarily, did you know that 98% of 13-year-olds that identify as gender dysphoric or say that they want to be a different gender than they actually are, 98% of those people grow out of that by the time they reach adulthood? It's true. So we'll be monitoring that case and commenting on it as it comes before the United States Supreme Court coming up on Wednesday. Just wanted to make you aware of that. It's 48 minutes after the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
It doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN, Matt Murphy for a couple of additional moments, and we'll hand it off to Mark Levin, the great one, as we continue on Super Talk 99.7. There has been an incredible shortage of coverage, and I have failed in the 4 hours that we've been together as well. Following America's first official terrorist attack by an illegal alien who crossed the border, that has been confirmed. On Saturday last, a 22-year-old by the name of Machuranian Sidi Muhammad Abdallahidi Great Googly Moogly. That's what I say when, for those who don't know, that's what I say when I know that I'm mangling it. So let's just say Muhammad Great Googly Moogly, 22, was found dead of an apparent hanging suicide in his Cook County, Illinois jail cell. Abdahili illegally jumped the border from Tijuana to San Diego, March of 2023. He was freed by U.S. Border Patrol upon orders of the Biden-Harris Department of Homeland Security. On October 26th, he hunted down and shot in the back a Jewish man, an Orthodox Jewish man, walking to synagogue. When the police tried to apprehend him, he attempted to kill the police while shouting, Allahu Akbar. This was a terrorist attack committed by a man who illegally entered this country. When's the next time? Well, don't hold your breath to see this on NBC or ABC or CBS because they're not going to show you. We'll continue the conversation about this and more coming up tomorrow. I'll be here at noon to 3. Brian Wilson from 3 until 7. Dan Mandis, Chris Hand in there as well. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. For Chris Weber, for Ken Weaver, for the rest of the crew, thank you for being with us. Have a wonderful evening. Enjoy the snow flurries. We'll talk to you tomorrow, folks. So long, everybody.